conspiracy theories are entering a dangerous
Information is the oxygen of the democracy.
There's so much evidence out there that even if less than 1% is true, that would be enough to collapse the current paradigm and change the whole planet.
What is going on, guys? How is everybody doing this wonderful Friday evening? Welcome to Free Speech Friday. Welcome to another wild week in the collapse of the world as we know it. Tonight is one of those shows where there's so much to talk about, and I have so much to say that I have no effing clue what we're going to say or how we're going to say it. If you haven't been following the news, if you haven't been scrolling through X or watching your Instagram feed, checking on YouTube, I don't even know how to convey to you all the things you might have missed this week. And if you have been doing those things and keeping up, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you have to be going through this. At least we're all going through it together. I just finished watching 2.5 hours of Tucker Carlson interviewing the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. And there's an entire 2.5 hour show to do just responding to that and watching clips from that. We will get into that. But perhaps more significantly, in the grand scheme of things, yesterday, I think it was, I opened my X feed and I see a clip, a really high definition clip, like a 4K clip of Les Wexner. And, you know, if I had, racked my brain, if I had been paying more attention, if I hadn't been so busy getting web published and all these other things, I would have remembered that I did hear, I think I knew that Les Wexner was going to be deposed and was going to give some sort of testimony, but I didn't remember that. And so I saw this clip of him giving some sort of interview, and my immediate first thought was, that's fucking AI. That's AI. 100%. That's fake. Hey, chat. I love you guys, by the way, but I'm going to take you off the screen until later in the post hangout. For now, we're going to keep the screen tight. Everyone's chats are going to stay in their own chat bubbles. I forgot. Forgot to turn you off. Love you guys. But yeah, I saw the clip from Wexner and immediately thought it had to be AI because getting Wexner under oath is huge. And by now, I'm sure you've seen the clip. By now, I'm sure you've seen the clip of the hot mic moment of Wexner's lawyer leaning in real tight and saying, if you answer another question with more than 5 words, I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm sure it was a joke. It was just a joke, guys. He was just joking. But we'll be sure to watch that clip, and I'll let you analyze Les Wexner's body language, his facial expressions. And we're going to watch many more clips than just that. And we're going to examine some of the evidence that actually goes with some of the things that Les Wexner claimed didn't happen, and some of the things he couldn't remember, some of the things he said about how he ran his business. Yeah. Les Wexner is one of the most significant people in the entire Epstein network. He's one of the most significant co-conspirators. He's one of the lowest hanging fruit in terms of evidence of wrongdoing. he ran 2 separate sex trafficking rings out of his businesses, one for boys and one for girls. Both of them were exposed to varying degrees, and we're going to talk about that tonight. Furthermore, both of these interviews, both of these pieces of media have all sorts of side quests and tangents that are important to explore that we'll be sure to kind of wind down a little bit. Most notably is in the Huckabee interview from Tucker today that just aired, they get into talking about Jonathan Pollard. And I just thought maybe we should do a little bit of a Jonathan Pollard side quest, because I think a lot of Americans these days, a lot of people that are woken up and paying attention to politics today, aren't aware of exactly who Jonathan Pollard is, exactly what he did, and exactly where he's at today and what he's advocating for today. And I thought Tucker did a great job of leveling up that awareness today. And I definitely understand why Israel was preempting the release of this interview with the immense ramp up of the propaganda campaign, just trying to throw everything they've got at Tucker, trying to make up all kinds of stories about his airport situation, about their detainment of him, about their questioning of his producers. It's a lot. It's fucking wild. It is wild. So it's going to be a big show today. We're probably going to go very long. We might even need to take a bathroom and water break in the middle to recharge, because I've been very busy. I have been very busy for the last week and a half. And anyone that's been following along with me knows that your boy has been developing an app that lets everybody access the Epstein files in their complete format, like just like you're using an AI chatbot, but even better. So right at the start here, I'm going to give you a little update, a big plug to Web, if you don't know about it, because there is an important update to share. Let me just full screen it real quick so I can just show you the full glory of this thing. And pleased to let you all know that first and foremost, I'm going to get rid of the chat, and I'm going to get rid of the chat background. Love you guys. We'll come back to the chat later in the post show. Web is no longer password gated. To be fair, we were giving out the passwords like fucking hotcakes for the last several days because we wanted to continually increase the number of people that were in there, as my developers made sure that it could handle the massive amount of volume and query and sort of spend, like token spend, that was going on in the background. It's held up like a freaking charm. It's amazing. We've been upgrading the database in all kinds of cool ways, preparing it to accept new data sets, not just the Epstein files, because it's never been just about the Epstein files. That's a sick place to start, an awesome use case for this tool. But Web is going to have way more than just the Epstein files in it, and we're getting those new data sets ready to load in, many of them related to the Epstein files that you can cross-reference with the Epstein files in the same project. But a lot of them not related to the Epstein files as well. A lot of other directions to go. We're looking at newspaper archives. That's going to be crazy. Huge archives. That's going to take a minute to get loaded in. We're looking at things like religious texts. We're looking at things like all sorts of FBI FOIA documents and FBI declassified case files stretching from 9/11 all the way back to, MLK, Michael Jackson. I just did an interview about Michael Jackson the other day. We got those files. So we're looking at all kinds of different files that we can load into here and make different data sets that you guys can all add in. So there's lots of updates going on in the background, and the database is chugging along strong. The token spend is chugging along strong. We are still in free beta tokens that I have purchased the tokens in advance. So right now tokens are still free, and there's no password on this sucker. You just go to theweb.io. That is the webb.io. And you'll be met with our new and improved website. Stoked for it. Dive into the files right there. That'll bring you to the app itself, where you can log into your account. No more password protection, and web away to your heart's content. If you want to know about Web, you can also scroll down on our website and get some intel, some insight about how it works, what's going on under the hood, what our goals for it all that. So just wanted to plug it up front. Get in there, have fun with it, explore the files, and take notes on your canvas. Ask all kinds of questions in the chat. We're hoping to have everything ready to do a launch by sometime next week. Hopefully soon. We will have to turn it off for a day or two in the switchover to the full platform. So go use the free beta tokens while you can, because ultimately after the beta is over, it is going to be a paid platform because the AI is intense and it's not free, and I can't pay for it forever. So that is what it is. And I appreciate you all beta testing it for us. I appreciate all of your cool media about it. Your cool people putting out awesome videos, using it on live streams. It's specifically designed by creators for creators so that hopefully it's easy and useful to use the canvas in your live streams, to use the chat in your live streams, in your videos, so that you can help share true information with primary sources and get the truth out to as many people as possible. That's our goal. Truth, unfiltered, unmodified, directly accessible to as many people as possible, double checkable with original sources. Very, very proud of the whole team, which is literally just me and 3 buddies, for putting that all together, getting it all ready. There's no outside investment. I've personally funded the entire project, all of the man hours and labor that's gone into it, all of the databasing and tokens and everything that's happened with it. There's no strings attached to it. No one's got anything on it. It's literally just us doing a passion project that we figured we would give out to everybody. So that's the update on web. And I'm very stoked for that. But it's had me very busy. So I feel like we've missed a lot of showtime in the last week with a lot of important things happening in this world. So tonight is going to be a big show with a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on. There's a lot going on. Now, before we get into the main show for the night, why don't you drop in the chat? Let me get the kick chat out as well, so I can get eyes on everybody.
Gringo, es que the tortas are open now.
Oh, you shush, Twitch, and just let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know where in the world are you tuning in from on tonight's show. Let us know. Colorado, baby. Iran is cooked. We'll see. Utah, Florida, Seattle. Shout out to Seattle. Hope it's not raining too hard up there. Maine, Wales, South Carolina, Houston, Missouri, France, Texas, Tejas, Illinois, Ohio, Iowa, Germany, England, Montana, Berlin, California, Michigan, Sacramento, Long Island, Texas, Tacoma, Nebraska, Staten, Alberta, Utah, California, Vegas, Ottawa. Dude, trying to read all 3 chats at once is crazy. Hey, whoever's saying they're in Palestine, if you're actually in Palestine, shout out. I hope you're safe. Pensacola, Maine, baby, North America. Under your bed, psych. I sleep on the floor, bit. I mean, I'm kidding. Cali, your basement. I ain't got no basement, homie. I ain't got no basement. Israel, Jersey, Nampa, UK, Arizona, Syracuse. Shout out to Ireland. Yeah, we're global. We are global. Epstein disclosure has gone global. The truth is global. Web is global. If you didn't know, dude, holy shit, chat. Guys, Web speaks 100 languages. We found out on accident. I don't know if you saw the piece of content I put out about this. Web speaks 100 different languages. And if you speak to Web in Spanish or in French or Portuguese or Chinese or Tamil, whatever it is, Web will auto-detect your language, understand your language, do its research in your language, and respond in your language. And it will cite the original Epstein files as they are, but then it will explain them to you in your language. Web literally globalizes Epstein files disclosure. Web makes it so that anyone, anywhere around the world, even if they don't speak English, can get into and understand and decode the Epstein files. It's fucking insane. It is so cool, and we didn't even realize it at first. One of my developers kind of knew it intellectually that was true, but we hadn't actually tested it. And it's so sick. So if you speak another language and you have a Web account, I highly recommend that you go into Web after the show is over, or on the side, I know you can multitask, and literally just drop a question in your preferred language into web and watch it work, dude. Do it if you have a keyboard that's a non-English keyboard, like suppose you got a Japanese keyboard or I don't know, like keyboards with other characters and stuff. If you've got a Cyrillic keyboard, type in those keys. It will respond in those keys. Someone in the chat's asking, Ebonics? Does it speak Ebonics? I am probably not. It'll probably just be like, hey, this guy's speaking weird English. But I don't know. But yeah, it's fucking crazy. Web is going global. Epstein disclosure is going global. And unfortunately, it's looking like the response from the deep state is going to be having war going global. It looks like the only response left to these lunatics is World War III, is at least war with Iran. Anything to distract you from the fact that they are all in the files. They're all implicated. The entire billionaire class, the entire donor class, the entire politically empowered class are all implicated. And they're all covering for it. And they would literally rather give you fake alien disclosure than face any accountability. And speaking of accountability, let me see if I can pull up an article here. Speaking of fucking accountability, we got a little bit of accountability for a moment. Just the smallest sliver of accountability when Prince Andrew was arrested and taken into custody. I didn't live stream it. I think I was just saying it privately to my friends because everyone was like, oh my gosh, like that's pretty cool, right? Like at least it's some accountability. It's like, the charges brought against him were pretty fucking weak. And I didn't have any faith that that was going to lead to anything. And lo and behold, Prince Andrew's free. Released. They just needed to ask him a few questions. He's still under investigation for his various serious crimes of, doing improper things while he was in the government. Like raping children, But no, he's free. He's walking free. Because so far, it's all a show. So far, we're not seeing anything even approaching serious investigation or accountability of any form. So, I guess it's up to all of us, citizen journalists, regular citizens, all of us, to stay fucking loud and to remind them that there's a lot more of us than there are of them. And they can only abuse and traffic and steal from us for so long before we're just done. We're just done with their whole system. We're done with all their fake media. We're done with all their fake narratives. We're done with all their fake government processes. We're done. This is our world. These are our countries. These are our governments. This is our system. And I know it feels like they rule it. It feels like they have all the power. But I think that we are just getting warmed up with the real struggle for power in this world. And so, I figured tonight, for Free Speech Friday, we would talk a little bit about some of the key players, some of the key nexus points in this whole system. First and foremost, Leslie Wexner. If you're not familiar with Leslie Wexner is a very old Jewish ultra-billionaire that is the founder and owner of L Brands. Most famously, that is Victoria's Secret. It's also Bath and Body Works. It's also Abercrombie and Fitch, and thereby Hollister. several other companies as well. He was also one of the founders of the Mega Group, which is, at very best, a Jewish subversive political organization composed of Jewish billionaires working together on behalf of global Jewry, and at worst, a straight-up Israeli intelligence operation. We'll get to the Mega Group a little bit later. Leslie Wexner also famously self-described as being possessed by a demon. I think we have a clip where we'll check out Whitney Webb talking about that later, and we'll reference her book where she cites her sourcing on that. And most relevantly to today's show, Leslie Wexner is the, shall we say, the bankroll, the money behind Jeffrey Epstein and behind Jeffrey Epstein's operation. I think that we should probably, though, rather than starting at the start or starting at the Victoria's Secret or starting anything like that, let's start at the most viral clip of all. Which I'm pretty sure that I put specifically in here. There we are. No, there we are. Okay. So, tonight on the show, I'm sorry, but there's so fucking much to cover. There's so much in all of these extremely long videos that you're just going to have to bear with me not remembering exactly where everything fucking is. I've got 4 different windows open. I've got a bunch of different reports with a bunch of different moments. I'm going to do my best to be organized, but holy shit, there's a lot going on here. So, we're just going to do our best at keeping it all together and making moves. Okay. So, we're going to rewind a little bit because Leslie Wexner was answering a question with a few too many words. And I figure let's just start with the most viral clip, the most relevant clip perhaps, and just get a little context because most of what's going viral is a shortened version of the clip that is just his lawyers whispering to him. But the context is actually really, really important, and it's really interesting. I keep on pulling up new views here and having new chats on the screen. I love you all, chat. And by the way, chat, I do see you all gifting subs in the various platforms, and I love you for it. Y'all are the best. I do see it, and I appreciate it. And I wonder if I can, I can move it all at once. Cool. We'll bring it down. Cool. So thanks to everyone that's gifting subs in the chats. I love you, even though I'm not showing your chats on the screen. We'll get into showing chats later for the after show on Kick. Pardon my backlight a little bit here. So let's hear Leslie Wexner get a little too wordy with his response.
That's a good idea. We ought to have an inventory. But then there was I hired a lady to be like the house manager who had run the U.S. Embassy in Rome, and she said, "Yeah, I know how to do this." And I said, "Well, why don't we keep inventories of stuff?" And she said, "Well, yeah, I could do that." So she did that as kind of a puny example, but I wouldn't have had the idea. But then all the things were inventoried. That wasn't work for me or Jeffrey. It was just regularly done.
So, you probably couldn't hear the lawyer because the video is already relatively quiet. It's already maxed out as loud as I can make it. He leans in and he whispers in Wexner's ear, and it's clearly audible, "I'm going to fucking kill you if you answer another question with more than 5 words. You got it? Now answer the question." And real quick, look at Leslie Wexner's face following this total joke.
answer the question.
Okay.
That is the fate. So let's be clear. Let's be exceptionally clear. Leslie Wexner is one of the richest men in the world. Leslie Wexner is one of the most powerful, apparently, you would assume one of the most powerful men in the world. That lawyer should be working for him. Leslie Wexner is untouched as of yet, despite running multiple trafficking rings, which we'll get into. He lives in one of the largest mansions in the country, the largest in Ohio, as far as I'm aware. He's got racehorses, he's got art, he's got companies, he's got properties all over the world. He's got multiple Jewish foundations that are slanging millions of dollars left and right for the Zionist causes. This man is the definition of powerful. And some random fucking lawyer just whispered in his ear that he would fucking kill him if he kept talking. And this is the face that one of the most powerful billionaires in the world made. And just my read of that situation, the whole expression, the transformation of expressions from kind of shock to like almost crying suddenly to kind of laughing to pulling it together and looking at the camera, at the interviewer again. To me, that sounds like a man who was just threatened by some people that are very fucking serious, that he knows full well are fucking serious, that have very much unalived other people related to this exact story in the past. And that is him going through the series of emotions all at once, live on camera, of realizing just how fucking close he is to the edge here. That is my interpretation of what we just saw. Now, I'm going to back up a fair bit, and we're going to run through it one more time with his complete verbose answer here.
I think you the word
Time. How and all of something all that you're describing.
Okay? So one more time, we're going to get the question that he's answering, and then the full answer that he gives. And then we're going to move into some of the more nuanced and interesting lies that he clearly told. And we're going to, expose a lot of them and show some evidence of what exactly he was up to.
As a listener, it sounds like substantial demands that you're describing. You were, and of course are, one of the wealthiest people in the country, managing all of your personal affairs. I would think would typically demand all of somebody's bandwidth. It sounds like that was an issue with the guy before Epstein. How was he able to do that job, but also do work for other clients at the same time?
Well, like Peg does the work now. I think you could supervise the work, overview it, which isn't the work that I do, and say you could do really thorough work if you were doing it 3 or 4 days a month, certainly a week or a day a month, just focusing on these things because there are accountants and tax lawyers and other people. And then in setting up, as an example, I didn't have the idea to inventory furniture or valuables. And it's like, how could you have all silverware in your house and what? And I didn't count forks and spoons, and it's like,
there's so many moments like this in this fucking interview where if you're not listening and thinking, it's like, all right, it's just an old man fucking rambling. But if you have a brain, this dude runs one of the largest, several of the largest, let's just say Hollister, Abercrombie and Fitch, Victoria's Secret, some of the largest retailers in the world, where the entire fucking business model is making clothing and selling it, theoretically. That's the business model. And if you know fuck all about business, you would know that a big part of business is inventorying your fucking product. You don't run a business and not inventory your shit. You don't You don't run a business and not inventory absolutely fucking everything. Even in like a kitchen, you literally inventory like how much cheese is still in the container and how much mayo is still in the jar and how many pickles are still in the fucking pickle container. Someone has to run around and fucking mark all of that all the time. And his excuse is that he never occurred to him to inventory all the shit that his business had and was selling and stuff like that.
So people could be walking out with forks and spoons. Gee, that's a good idea. We ought to have an inventory. But then
we're supposed to believe that this guy built one of the biggest retail brands. Let's rewind. This Jewish dude built one of the biggest retail brands in the world and didn't count how many things he owned. Right. You're trying to tell me that this Jewish dude didn't count how many fucking things he owned, but somehow was successful enough that he built one of the biggest retail businesses in the world. It's like, oh my gosh, we should have an inventory. I never thought of that, despite running a multi-billion-dollar fucking retail business.
there was I hired a lady to be like the house manager who had run the U.S. Embassy in Rome, and she said, yeah, I know how to do this. And I said, well, why don't we keep inventories of stuff? And she said, well, yeah, I could do that. So she did that that's kind of a puny example, but I wouldn't have had the idea. But then all the things were inventoried. That wasn't work for me or Jeffrey. It was just regularly done.
The fucking lawyer just like, hey guys, I'm just gonna take one moment here. I'm just gonna take 1 second here to tell him I'm gonna fucking kill him.
Answer the question.
Okay.
A discrete question on a different topic. We know that at one point you owned a property in Palm Beach. It was a large oceanfront estate. We understand that you sold that estate to a guy named Abe Gossman, and that later Mr. Trump and Mr. Epstein got into a bidding war over that property. Do you have any knowledge of, or did you have any?
Whole different story. We're not going to get into that story. Okay. So that's the hot mic moment, plus its context. Make of it what you will. But if you aren't aware of what the mega group is, of Wexner's ties to intelligence, of the second trafficking ring that was running out of his businesses, not just the Epstein one, if you're not aware of all that, maybe hold your judgment about what exactly that moment was until the end of the show. Because that was not just a joke. And that moment was very significant. And I gotta say, before we get into sort of more of the main analysis of the show tonight, I fucking love it when these things happen. I fucking love it when they mess up this bad. When they get put in a position where these, let's just say, underskilled assets of the cabal are on camera for a little too long. It's awesome. It's fucking awesome. Because this kind of stuff is happening behind the scenes all the time. This is how it all actually works. It's just that usually they aren't put in depositions for 4 hours long and it's all recorded in HD. Usually this is happening behind closed doors. So let's rewind a little bit. And let's just analyze a little bit about Wexner as a person. Because maybe it's just me, but this motherfucker just gives me demonic vibes. And I know that he's like 80-something years old. He's super old. He seems pretty cogent. He seems pretty lucid to me. But his tics and his mannerisms and his... maybe it's just being Yiddish. I don't know. But later we'll talk about the quote where he once claimed that he was possessed by a demon called a D-book in his own words. Okay, we'll talk about that later.
thing anyone could do is, and Epstein did them all, Meister said. Did Meister ever express concerns related to Mr. Epstein's sexual proclivities?
Never.
Objection, double hearsay. He answered.
Never.
The very next sentence continues, Mr. Epstein showed up unannounced at Meister's Park Avenue apartment with 5 models for Meister's sexual entertainment. Epstein thought he was bringing me a gift, according to Mr. Meister. Were you aware?
Mr. Meister is the guy that allegedly introduced Wexner to Epstein, if you're not with that. So that's why they're questioning him about what he knew about this relationship and this guy and what he told him about Epstein.
Aware of this occurring?
Objection, double hearsay.
No.
Did Mr. Epstein ever present you with women for your sexual entertainment?
Absolutely not.
Objection, hearsay. I heard say that maybe he would have been looking for other things than women. Hearsay. I just want to give you a flavor for basically how the entire fucking 4 hours is.
Mr. Wexner,
Are we done? Are we done with that exhibit?
we are. Mr. Wexner, at any time, did Jeffrey Epstein ever inform or represent to you that he was a part of any intelligence service of any nation, including the United States?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever learn that he was involved with any intelligence service?
Never.
He had to think about it. Let me just pretend to think about it. Did he ever work for any intelligence service? Well, let me think about it. I don't. No, never. Never once. No. Here's the thing. When you ask an Israeli asset if his Israeli asset buddy worked for Israel, you're not going to get a straight answer. So, let's go ask Webb about it. Let's go ask Webb about it. Perhaps we should watch the clip about them being close friends first. But we'll get to that in a minute. Just trying to think about how to talk about the mega group. The mega group is actually not super well evidenced in the direct Jeffrey Epstein drops and files, because the mega group is largely quite secret. It is mentioned briefly in this, which is essentially like a piece of a news article. But if you actually really want to learn about the mega group, the place to go is Whitney Webb's One Nation Under Blackmail. She has a whole chapter. She has 2 whole chapters, I believe, about Leslie Wexner, the world of Leslie Wexner, as well as, this chapter largely digs into his philanthropic causes, into his various Jewish causes, his mega group contributions and ties. That's a different one. And I want to just check if I've got a source open over here about it. No, that's Benji. That's Benji. Okay, that's all Tucker stuff. So, the mega group, otherwise known as the study group. You can go very much more deep into this. It's pretty important to go pretty deep into this because it was largely covered up for a long time. It was kept very secretive. And it took quite a long time for good independent journalists to expose what the mega group really was over time. And Whitney Webb has a really great analysis of some pretty niche mentions of mega in various communications that are suspicious that were a bit of a mystery for a long time. But the mega group was an informal group of influential Jewish entrepreneurs, and it was founded by Leslie Wexner and Charles Bronfman as the Study Group. The group met twice yearly for philanthropy and Judaism seminars. It is said to have had up to 50 members, including director Steven Spielberg and many other rich and powerful Jewish people. It inspired several philanthropic initiatives, such as the Partnership for Excellence in Jewish Education, Birthright Israel, and support for the renewal of Hillel International. The group became known to a wider public through the Wall Street Journal report in May 1998. The organization is also said to have tried to influence U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. In 2003, it employed Republican political consultant Frank Luntz to help the group mobilize support for Israel. Frank Luntz, by the way, is the guy that wrote the Hasbara manuals for this nation of Israel. At least one of the generations of them. And look at that. They do now have a note, finally, about Jeffrey Epstein, who it is said that Jeffrey Epstein used the group to build up his network of high-ranking contacts in business, media, and politics. Wexner was Epstein's primary financial supporter, yet later claimed to have known nothing about it. I'm trying to figure out, there's the power of attorney, financial transactions. This is the New York townhouse transaction. At a certain point, and that's where he sold it for $1. Is it here? There. During the years 2004 to 2006, the Wexner Foundation transferred at least $2.3 million to the Israeli former Prime Minister Ehud Barak. Mr. Epstein signed personally on a few other of the transfer forms. Leslie Wexner would allege that he had no knowledge of that because Jeffrey Epstein did it on his behalf with his power of attorney, which we'll discuss in just a second. But this is just one little interesting transaction, a specifically very relevant transaction that ties the Wexner Foundation to intelligence-linked things. Leslie Wexner claiming that he has no knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's involvement with intelligence agencies while he is simultaneously tied to all of the people that are tied to intelligence agencies with Jeffrey Epstein. Right. Yeah. Okay, bud. Since it's not going to come up any other time, I figure that right at the start here, we should probably just talk about Mike Jeffries. Leslie Wexner. I want to bring up the Wikipedia page for Abercrombie and Fitch. Mike Jeffries. Right there. Okay. So, in 1988, Oshman's, the old ownership, sold the brand and its operations to Les Wexner's vehicle, the Limited. Under the Limited, which later rebranded itself as L Brands, Abercrombie & Fitch gradually shifted its focus to young adults. They hired Mike Jeffries as the CEO in 1992. So, they buy the company in 1988. Then, 4 years later, they bring in the new CEO. This is Leslie Wexner's guy, while he is transforming the business to focus more on young people, on kids. Mike Jeffries comes in 1996, spun off as a separate publicly traded company, and eventually grew into one of the largest apparel firms in the United States, partially by refocusing the brand on the teen consumer and by building up its roster of teenage male models. Then we learn in 2024 that Abercrombie CEO Mike Jeffries was running a male sex trafficking ring basically that entire time out of Abercrombie and Fitch. We, to be clear, these are only allegations. They were charges, but they were never tried fully in a court of law. And the reason for that is because obviously the guy was too old and he got Alzheimer's and he forgot all about it and he just wasn't fit to stand trial. So he pled insanity, Alzheimer's, and was let off. That is a true story. And so it never went to trial. And we never got the discovery. We never got the deliberation back and forth. We never got the details of all of the other trafficking that was going on. Because one of the cabal's trafficking rings being exposed was more than enough. Thank you very much. So just to come back to where we were. Leslie Wexner buys Abercrombie and Fitch, which also owns Hollister. He puts in his own personal CEO, Mike Jeffries, who runs the company from then on, refocuses the company on the teen audience, runs a sex trafficking ring where he is allegedly, very well documented, trafficking those young male models all across the world over to Europe, doing all sorts of absolutely horrendous things to them. You can read about them in the charging documents. Trafficking them to other wealthy clientele, although they tried to cover that part up. They tried to make it look like it was just for him and his couple of buddies. We can read the room. We're not retarded. We weren't born yesterday. It's just a coincidence that Leslie Wexner was running. Here, let me bring him back up. Let me bring him back up. It's just a coincidence that this hobgoblin was running two different trafficking rings out of his two prominent retail brands that both target the teen, younger, sexualized audiences. Just a coincidence. It's also just a coincidence that he chose Jeffrey Epstein to manage all of his businesses and to have power of attorney over those businesses. Where's the power of attorney documents here? Where did I put them? That's the New York Townhouse transaction. Fiduciary control. This is documentation of the fiduciary control. It's been reported in many different places, and somewhere in here, right here. This is actually a JP Morgan statement that it's kind of a lot to unpack, but it has Jeffrey Epstein's accounts mixed in with a Wexner account showing his power of attorney over all these different accounts. A durable power of attorney is an important legal document. By signing this durable power of attorney, I am authorizing another person, my agent, to act for me. I acknowledge these important facts, etc. Quote, Wexner trusts Epstein so completely that he has assigned him the power of fiduciary over all of his private trusts and foundations, says a source close to Wexner. In 1992, Epstein even persuaded Wexner to put him on the board of the Wexner Foundation in place of Wexner's ailing mother, Bella Wexner, recovered and demanded to be reinstated. Epstein has said they settled by splitting the foundation in two. So, Leslie Wexner chose Jeffrey Epstein, who had no financial resume of any public knowledge. Like there was no public financial resume. He hadn't done any big trades. He hadn't managed anyone's money. He had been a derivatives trader at Bear Stearns. He'd been helping rich people avoid taxes at Bear Stearns. I mean, that's not the worst resume ever to help Leslie Wexner manage his trusts and companies and all of that. But this is one of the richest Jewish billionaires in America, running some of the biggest retail companies in America. And he doesn't just hire Epstein to do a little bit of work. He hires Epstein to run all of his shit in whatever way he wants, signing over power of attorney, which gives Jeffrey Epstein the authority to buy, sell, transfer, invest, divest, anything he wants on behalf of Leslie Wexner. There's a quote that comes back around all the time, that almost everyone at the Limited wondered who Epstein was. He literally came out of nowhere. Said, so everyone was mystified as to what his appeal was, says Robert Morosky, a former vice chairman of the Limited. One person who worked for Wexner and who saw a contract drawn up between the two men says Epstein is involved in, quote, everything, not just a little here, a little there, everything. In addition, he says, Wexner likes having a hatchet man. Whenever there is dirty work to be done, he'd stick Jeffrey on it. He has a reputation for being ruthless, but he gets the job done. Epstein has evidently been asked to fire personal staff members when needed. He was that mysterious person that everyone was scared to death of, says a former employee. He inserted himself into the construction process of Leslie Wexner's yacht that resulted in litigation down the road between Wexner and the shipyard, etc. There's actually a quote here somewhere that we'll probably find a little later, where apparently Leslie Wexner even had Jeffrey Epstein break up with a woman for him at one point because he needed help doing that. Who knows? But before we get too deep into that side of things, I want to find the clip. Friendship Denied, 31.
How often did you interact with Mr. Epstein throughout your relationship?
Probably a lot of phone conversations, but meetings, didn't see him much. You know, most of the stuff, I was traveling a lot because of business. So, and it was erratic. He might call 3 times in an hour and I'd talk to him for 3 months. That's how I remember it.
When you were interacting with Mr. Epstein, did you enjoy spending time with him?
Well, enjoyment was fun. No, it was work.
Can you elaborate on that? What were the nature of your interactions with Mr. Epstein?
Like professional, you know, this is what's going on. Have you paid this bill? Do you know about that? Or, you know, I took an inventory of your house and no one had ever taken an inventory of your furniture. Do you know how much furniture you have? And it was like, no, I never thought about it. Well, I know, you should know that I have an inventory. Things are buttoned up. It was like what an author would, I don't think, how can I explain it? It's like people talk about family offices, and I'd managed all my stuff, or my admin paid my bills because I was so busy, and I realized there was a complexity in my personal life, and somebody had to just do this stuff because it wasn't getting done properly.
Does any of this make any fucking sense? This man that built one of the biggest retailers in the country from the ground up, from scratch, from his hard work, from his hard Jewish labor, ran it all himself with his mama. Did all of his own paperwork, all of his own accounting. And then he needed someone to help. So rather than go and hire anyone qualified, he hires Jeffrey Epstein, who is literally a money launderer for weapons traffickers at the time, whose previous gig had been helping launder money for Adnan Khashoggi, one of the most famous weapons traffickers in the world. He'd been involved in the Iran-Contra deals. He'd been hanging out around BCCI. He was already deeply involved in Israeli intelligence work at that time. Already good friends with Robert Maxwell. Already swimming in a lot of the same circles as Leslie Wexner. And that's the guy that Leslie Wexner decides to hire to take inventories of his furniture? To just, do all the things that needed to be done? Like, how can I describe this? How can I describe the job that this fucking spy, sex trafficker, how do I describe the job that he was doing? I mean, I probably shouldn't say what Ehud Barak told me he would be doing when we first hatched the fucking plan. So let me make up some retarded 80-year-old absolute garbage slop, because I think the goy won't notice that this is absolute bullshit. Absolute slop. This is not how someone that ran one of the largest retailers in the world describes his most important fiduciary, the guy that literally was investing millions of dollars on his behalf, totally without his knowledge. The guy that was swapping properties around on his behalf. The guy that was posing as a recruiter, hosting shows, telling people that he owned Victoria's Secret. This is not how you describe his job role. I was like, I don't know. He was like counting how many forks were in my house. I never knew how many forks I had in my house. He's like, have you counted your chairs? It's like, oh my gosh. It's like, sometimes you just need someone else to count your fucking chairs.
And so it was like, professional, I guess what a fiduciary would do.
None of that is what a fiduciary would do, bro. Fiduciaries aren't counting your chairs. Fiduciaries aren't taking inventory of your house. Fiduciaries are managing all your money. They're managing your assets, at least the way that you set him up, are managing your businesses, your stock, your investments. They're managing your properties. That's what he was doing. And he was filling a bunch of those properties with fucking underage girls that he was selling. He was trafficking people in and out of those properties. He was doing weird real estate deals where he would sell one of those properties to himself for $1 and then sell it for like an actual price later. He was investing a bunch, like millions of dollars of that money, of Wexner's money, into his own foundations. He was investing a bunch of money from his foundations into Wexner's foundations. Totally just charitable giving between buddies. I mean, coworkers. I mean, the guy that has the inventory of my fucking shares. Just totally normal movements of money. Nothing to do with intelligence operations. Believe you me.
More than what just your accountant would do or your lawyer would do. And something I thought was unfair for my secretary to do. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is unfair to ask your secretary to traffic children on behalf of Mossad to blackmail all the goy into doing Israel's bidding. That's not usually what you hire a secretary to do. And to be fair, if I was a secretary and someone asked me to do that, I would be like, that's pretty gay, dude. Like, that's not cool, dog. No thanks. That's not what you would usually hire a secretary to do. That's what you would hire Jeffrey Epstein to do. Just my opinion. Just stating my opinion for the YouTube algorithm.
And you testified that at times he would call you 3 times a day. Is that a fair characterization of your testimony?
No. What I'm saying is that he would call me 3 times, maybe in an hour, 'cause he wanted to tell me something about what he was doing, or would ask me a question about taxes so he could understand what he was preparing. But he might not call me for 3 months, maybe 6 months. I wouldn't pay attention.
The guy that has the power of the pen, that with the stroke of one of these can sell your entire business out from under you without your permission. The guy that can sell your fucking house with your belongings in it. The guy that can invest all of your money in shit coins if he wants to. That guy, you're going to let him just roam the nation, the world for 6 months without checking in? That's how you run a successful underwear business? Is that how you run a successful underwear business? Holy shit, this dude sucks at business. Yeah, sometimes he just wouldn't check in with me for 6 fucking months. Who knows what he was doing? Right? Yeah, Kick Chat is pulling on the right threads. Was it ever Leslie Wexner's money? Was it really all just underwear money? Or is it possible that maybe some of it flowing in was actually, shall we say, intelligence support money? Perhaps even Rothschild money. We'll get to the part where we talk about the Rothschilds in just a minute.
It wasn't important at the time.
Mr. Wexner, is it your testimony today that your conversations with Mr. Epstein were predominantly focused on your business relationship with him?
That'd be very accurate. That would be very accurate.
What common interests did you share with Mr. Epstein outside of work?
None.
So you didn't have any personal relationship with Mr. Epstein whatsoever?
I don't think I ever went to lunch or dinner or a movie or had a cup of coffee with Jeffrey. And I've thought about that recently. And I'd say the same thing about my attorney. I'd never been to his office, my current attorney, who's been our family attorney for 30 years. And how could you, I mean, I can't explain to myself how I could have an attorney who lives in Columbus, who was my personal attorney, and I'm friendly with, and never visited his office. I just...
Let me just get into a really emotional story about how I never even hang out with my attorney. While I lie about never hanging out with my fucking spy buddy that was running a trafficking ring for me and my friends.
My focus was on my business, and my focus was on community.
His focus was on his business. He was really focusing on that business where he had no fucking clue how much shit he had, and where he just let fucking random pedophiles run around with power of attorney over all of his shit, and didn't notice that the dude was selling his properties and investing millions of dollars into random things and transferring money in and out of his fucking philanthropies and stuff willy-nilly. That's how focused he was on his business. Right?
Before my family. That is, before my family existed.
Until your family, not
Until, yeah, that's a better way of phrasing it.
This is a general question, but approximately how many years were you associated with Mr. Epstein?
I don't recall exactly.
And to be clear, you at no point ever considered him to be a friend.
No, I didn't see Jeffrey as a friend. I saw Jeffrey, as I see Matt, my attorney, as friend. We're friendly, but
we're friendly, but really we're both in a fucking Israeli spy operation together. And if I do something wrong, he'll lean over to me and say, I'll fucking kill you if you mess up again. So it's not exactly like being friends. It's a little more like being in the fucking Jewish mob. To be honest, I see Jeffrey a lot like I see the other mobster to my side, because that's exactly what we all are. And if back in the day, one of us had accidentally exposed the operation, maybe one of them would have fucking killed the other one. Who knows? Who knows? It's not exactly a friendship, but that also doesn't exactly square with what we've been told by Leslie before about their deep and close personal friendship.
We're not friends. I mean, obviously, someone that worked for you in a trust position, you're friendly with. You're not in a hostile adversarial argumentative position with the people that are advising you.
It's been reported repeatedly that you were close friends with Mr. Epstein. Why do you think people would come to that conclusion?
Objection, hearsay.
Let's do some hearsay. Let's do a little bit of hearsay. Where is the quote on this page? I should have used my handy dandy fucking drawing tool. There. So, if you want this House Oversight document 017783, the same exact quote has been reported many times in many places. Wherever and whenever it was that Epstein and Wexner actually met, there was an immediate and strong personal chemistry. Wexner says he thinks Epstein is, quote, very smart with a combination of excellent judgment and unusually high standards. Also, he is always a most loyal friend. Where's the other article? Close friends. This article shares the same quote. This article actually has a bunch of gangster-ass quotes. This is the original source article for one of the other documents that we read earlier. Right here. Also, he is always a most loyal friend. And you know, if you wanted to know, you could take this document in web, you could add it to the chat, and then here I'll slide the chat over for you so you can see it. And then you could ask the chat, although the chat is down off your screen right now. And then with it added to the chat, you could say, what publication is this document a part of? And can you give me context surrounding this article about the relationship between Wexner and Epstein? And you can have web give you some context. Also, you can notice that it's a multi-page PDF, page 11. It's kind of hard to fit all of this into the little viewer on my screen right now. Here, what I'll do is I'll minimize that. Nice picture. But yeah, as with many of these documents, New York Post articles. So I think it's a New York Post article. I don't remember exactly what it is. But if you need extra context on something, you can ask Webb. And it was not a New York Post article. It's actually, I feel kind of embarrassed for not knowing this. This is a extremely significant article. If we were talking to Whitney Webb, she would have known immediately, and she would have shared the exact truth with us, because this is the Vicky Ward article. Webb, she would have known immediately, and she would have shared the exact truth with us.
Kick, why are you turning on your audio like that on me? Why are you doing that to me?
So, this document is from the March 2003 issue of Vanity Fair magazine, titled The Talented Mr. Epstein, and was written by journalist Vicky Ward. And this is a critical early article from before almost anyone was talking about Jeffrey Epstein. that is a critical early source about his early operations and what people said about him before everyone was scared to talk about him. And this specific article is cited all throughout this case. Whitney Webb references it very well. And so that's just one example of how you can use Webb to help get context on documents that you're seeing in these files, where if you just see one random page out of order, it's often almost impossible to know what you're looking at. But with Webb, you can just drop that in there and say, hey, what is this? Tell me what this is. Where is it from? What's the context? What's it connected to? Is there anything else? And it'll hook you up. It'll hook you right up. 1 second. Let me expand her out. Okay. Leslie Wexner. There's all kinds of other articles and evidence about their friendship.
Parties for you?
Surprise to me, and then some. Earlier, my wife would have surprise parties, and so I'd get on the airplane, and there'd be acquaintances, friends, and I was always shocked who was there. Or some people might fly to wherever the party was, which was always a surprise to me, and then some of guests' friends would be at the party when I got there, and that was another surprise. So I don't remember specifics.
So Mr. Epstein would have been invited to surprise parties for you?
Obviously so, because he was there.
A little awkward.
You testified earlier that you didn't consider him a friend. Do you invite people you don't consider to be friends to surprise parties?
Objection assumes that he invited them.
It's a little awkward.
Do you need to answer that again?
Why would Mr. Epstein have been invited to these surprise parties?
My wife would have invited him.
Why do you think your wife would have invited him?
Because he was our financial advisor.
Did your wife consider him a friend?
No, I don't think so.
Can we take a quick break?
Yes, we can go off.
Can we take a quick break and go off the fucking record? Like literally. Oh boy. Oh boy. That's weird. That's a little weird. What a weird friendship.
Request that you bring where the two of you would meet.
Never.
Was it common for Epstein to bring young women or girls to any other place where the two of you would meet?
Never.
Did Mr. Epstein ever request that you bring Victoria's Secret models to events at your home?
No, and no Victoria's Secret models ever came to my home, even for business purpose.
Did
Talk about one exception. Stuff you've seen.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. There's one exception. My wife had for about 20 years, a horse show here for charity. And one of the models' husband was a polo player. And I don't know how they showed up as a couple, and he gave either me or my wife a polo horse, which was, I don't ride, and Abigail wasn't interested in a polo horse, so that would have been the only exception.
So I wanted to play this clip specifically because if you know a bunch of stuff about organized crime or about money laundering, you would know that the top 3 ways to launder money, maybe the top 2, first and foremost, are art and racehorses. And there's a good clip of, I'm pretty sure, John Kiriakou talking about that, former CIA guy. But yeah, it's art, it's racehorses, and it's real estate. And what did you know? They were into all three. It's kind of weird, huh? Isn't it weird that they would give us a polo racehorse, but neither of us have any interest in horses? We would host a horse show every year, but we don't have any interest in horses. I don't remember even if he gave the horse to me or my wife, because who knows? Because that's not what was actually happening. I suspect. Allegedly. Probably. Maybe. Just maybe if you put 2 and 2 together. Weird. And I'm no expert on money laundering, but I would assume that if you were to go down the list on money laundering, things like fashion shows and beauty pageants probably would be pretty fucking high up the list too. Just an idea. All tax-free, huh? Yeah. So I just thought it was neat that we were talking about horse gifts. Maybe his attorney should have reminded him to not answer with so many fucking words, or someone will effing kill him. I just thought that one was interesting. We already looked at the intelligence. The intelligence clip.
Did you ever learn that he was involved with any intelligence service?
He has to think about it.
Never.
No, never. I never did. But I just wanted to shout Whitney out real quick. Got a couple of these queued up. This is from One Nation Under Blackmail. Volume 2, page 723. To be clear, though, that's page 723 of the combined ebook version, not of the paperback versions. In 1990, Fortune magazine wrote that Fisher, who is Leslie Wexner's main mentor and role model, in the article, described in the article as a longtime Republican power broker and big fundraiser for Jewish causes, was the nexus, i.e. the center, of the nation's oldest of the old boys networks, the most prominent members of which were Taubman, Henry Ford II, and Leslie Wexner. And Brock's ties to the Wexner Foundation became an issue only after right-wing journalist Ariel Segal called last October to investigate the $2.3 million research grant that Barack received from the Wexner Foundation, which has in turn for years been the beneficiary of Epstein's financial contributions. According to Segal, the grant under question was given to Barack in 2004 to 2006 when he held no public position. Barack insists he has no authority to disclose details about this grant. Only the Wexner Foundation can, if they so choose, which they chose not to. Just little breadcrumbs just left out, hanging around, hanging out in places like the Epstein files. Let me just stretch it out a little bit so we can see. Just hanging around in the Epstein files, where it corroborates during the years of 2004 to 2006, the Wexner Foundation transferred at least $2.3 million to the Israeli former Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who was the handler connected to Israeli intelligence managing this trafficking operation. That's weird. It's a little weird, a little suspicious. So, big shout out to Whitney Webb for all of her great work. Yes. I think.
Engaged to Abigail.
Well, when did you first meet Ghislaine Maxwell?
Probably about the time that I got engaged to Abigail. So, must have been about 1990.
And do you recall how you met Miss Maxwell?
Well, Jeffrey wanted me to meet the person he was going to marry, and I was engaged to Abigail. And period.
Do you have any recollection of where you met Miss Maxwell?
No.
And based on your testimony, is it fair to say that Mr. Epstein introduced you to Maxwell?
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
And you mentioned it previously, but what was your understanding of Miss Maxwell's relationship to Mr. Epstein?
I don't know. They dated, they were in love, they were going to get married.
Were they, would you characterize it as a monogamous relationship?
I thought so.
So during this period, you had no knowledge of Mr. Epstein ever having any relationship with any man or woman besides Miss Maxwell?
No. Didn't.
How would you characterize your relationship with Miss Maxwell?
Like, Wendy Meister was Bob's wife, and we were friendly and friends. I met Galan Maxwell because she was Jeffrey's girlfriend, fiance. It never went beyond that. I knew she was smart. I think she was an honors graduate of Cambridge or something. So she was like, spoke with an English accent. So I thought he was really lucky because he finally met somebody that was really smart and nice.
And you said that Miss Maxwell was Epstein's fiance. So it was your understanding that they were engaged to be married?
I don't remember if they were engaged to be married or they were planning to get married, but I was engaged and they talked about they were going to get married. So I don't know if it was engagement or just they both agreed.
And I think I'm going to pull in some clips from X that I want to specifically target. We should do this one too. But first, let's pull in this one. Posted by Being Libertarian. Shout out.
Specifically done personal work for the Rothschild family in France. Well, specifically, I talked to Ellie de Rothschild, and so I mentioned that earlier. So he represented their whole family. So there had been a whole bunch of people. Most of them I never would have met, but I knew Ellie. He would say, like, I'm providing financial advice to the founders of Google. I'm providing financial advice to Jeff Bezos.
Just a funny little edit with the warning clipped on there too. Don't talk about the Rothschilds. Thank you very much.
I think it was
Here's a more
his
complete one.
experience at an industrial level, like working for a big company like Bear Stearns, and then he had done personal work for the Rothschild family in France.
Personal wealth management, essentially?
I don't know.
Ask yourself why. How does Jeffrey Epstein get hooked up with the Rothschild family in France?
We've seen some reports that he would present himself as a bounty hunter, that he would find people's missing money. Do you recall him saying anything like that?
No. Well, specifically, I talked to Ellie de Rothschild, and so I mentioned that earlier. So he represented their whole family. So there had been a whole bunch of people. Most of them I never would have met. But
Just to be clear, this is the Rothschild family that's just a conspiracy theory that directly financed the founding of Israel, that purchased all the land for the founding of Israel in cahoots with the Jewish mob in America, funding the, let's just say, violence that founded Israel, that then also funded the theft and then construction of nuclear arms technologies that led to the nuclear bombs that Israel totally does not have to this day. That Rothschild family, the conspiracy theory, the ones that don't rule the world.
I knew LA. I never met people, but there were people that called me that either insinuated or said they knew Jeffrey through a financial relationship. And so, I mean, they could have been actors, but in the time, a guy calls me up. I'll give you an example.
He looks over at his fucking lawyer.
It's just no, because I want you to understand this, because it's so confusing to me. He would say, like, I'm providing financial advice to the founders of Google. I'm providing financial advice to Jeff Bezos. I'm providing financial advice for the chief technologist at Google.
And I just don't do any fucking due diligence at all. I just trust random fucking money launderers that work for the Rothschilds when they just tell me crazy shit like that. I just trust them. I don't even ask questions. I just trust them, and I sign over power of attorney to them. That's how you run a giant business like Victoria's Secret. That's how you get successful as a Jew.
Wow, I'm in good company, because these are really smart guys with a lot of money.
Wow, I'm in really good company, because I'm surrounded by Jewish sex traffickers and Rothschilds. That's great.
And you have to put yourself in the mindset of if my attorney said, he was qualified to argue in front of the Supreme Court, I'd believe him. I didn't say to call the Supreme Court and say, tell me.
What a retard. That's a lie. You just believe him. I just believe him. Right, bud. Yeah. You run one of the biggest pro-Jewish philanthropies in the world that donates to all sorts of Israeli intelligence causes, that donated money to Ehud Barak, that set up 2 gigantic sex trafficking rings on accident without even knowing, because you just don't even know. You just don't even ask any questions. I just don't even know. I'm just like an old fucking hobgoblin. Whoopsies. Another sex trafficking ring. Oh my gosh, what luck. Gosh, gee willikers, maybe I should have done a little due diligence. You fucking liar. Perjury.
Is he really an attorney, or did he do this?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Right. I'm not sure if this is the exact same clip or not, but shout out to Luke, and Luke's caption makes me think this is
his experience at an industry. I don't know.
We've seen some reports that he would present himself as a
people, but there were people that called me.
Okay, so he's pulling the 80s out of the timeline that occurs in. Cool. Same clip. One more clip that I want to pull in from James Lee here.
That's it.
So, real briefly, did the FBI or Department of Justice ever directly speak to you about Epstein or Maxwell? Has the FBI or DOJ ever directly contacted you or spoken to you about Epstein?
Not to my knowledge.
Never.
So the FBI and DOJ have never contacted Leslie Wexner, to his knowledge. Despite Rep. Comer.
Before, and obviously we deposed someone this week, Les Wexner, who was one of the co-conspirators, but he's already been investigated by the Department of Justice. We're trying to focus now on the investigation on who has never been questioned by the Department of Justice.
So either this motherfucker's lying, or Leslie Wexner's lying, or they're both lying. Because apparently the DOJ and the FBI never investigated or questioned him about anything, despite the fact that he ran 2 different sex trafficking rings out of his businesses, despite the fact that he financed the entire Epstein operation, apparently, signed over power of attorney, was deeply involved in all of it, was close friends with him, was getting gifts of racehorses and shit, sending money to Ehud Barak, selling gigantic multi-million-dollar townhouses and mansions for $1, for literally $1. Founding the Mega Group, a Jewish spy organization composed of Jewish billionaires that are all tied to organized crime and intelligence operations. Never got investigated. They never asked him any questions. I wonder why. I fucking wonder why. One more clip here.
Told me the response.
This is,
You know now you can do something about it.
oh yeah.
So Wexner claims, you claim that you cut ties with Epstein in 07, right?
So, another attorney here, someone else here, I'm not actually sure who's asking this question, says, hey, you claimed that you cut ties in 2007, right?
Okay. But you emailed Epstein, quote, Abigail told me the response. All I can say is I feel sorry. You violated your own #1 rule. Always be careful, end quote. That was a
So he emailed Jeffrey Epstein this, hey, you violated your own rule. This is kind of cryptic that implied that they were having communications about how Epstein had fucked up.
email in 2008, Mr. Wexner.
So he emailed him in 2008 after they'd cut ties. And the email sounds an awful lot like, hey, man, I'm sorry that you're going down for sex trafficking, but you violated your own rule, man. You violated your own rule and you almost exposed our whole operation, man. I was told that you represented the Rothschilds. I didn't expect you to fuck up, dog. I mean, we're not even friends. Like, if you answer another question with more than 5 words, I might have to fucking kill you, dog. Sorry, bro.
I know. I'm letting you know that the public knows.
Probably. I was giving him the finger.
I'm letting you know that the public knows that you just lied. And here's the file that we can all read. It's in the Epstein files.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Wexner, just real briefly, did the
And he starts hyperventilating and
FBI or Department of Justice ever directly speak to you about Epstein or Maxwell? Has the FBI or DOJ ever directly contacted you?
And then into this. So, there's all sorts of other stuff in there to go into.
Right. It was just regularly done.
But we're just going to really quickly. I'm going to fucking kill you if you answer another question with more than 5 words, okay? Now cry about it, you little billionaire bitch. You work for us. Who is us? Well, maybe it's the same people that Epstein worked for. Maybe it's the same people they all worked for. Just a giant conspiracy theory, folks. Pay no attention to the score between conspiracy theorists and everybody else. But I think that that's probably enough about Leslie Wexner. We could go on and on and on and on. And, what, we've been going on for an hour and a half already, and we haven't even gotten to the Tucker interview yet. So, Gigi, I know you're hungry. I know you're hungry, girl. We're gonna do a quick, we'll do a quick Gigi snack break here. I know you're hungry. She only got part of her dinner because we got to go get more chicken in a little bit. So we'll give her some liver bites. Go digging. Liver in the cave. Liver in the cave for Gigi. Go get it. What is the score between conspiracy theorists and the global deep state and the Jewish billionaire cabal? It ain't great. I think the conspiracy theorists are up like 6 million to 1 at this point. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty damn sure the conspiracy theorists have been right about the whole frickin' thing. So, Mike Huckabee. Mr. Michael Huckabee. Let me just make sure I've got all my different stuff queued up here. Yeah, I think we're all queued up. We got Webb here. And real quick, in the break here, I just want to quickly, because you know me, I don't take any brand deals. I don't take any sponsorships. I don't take any outside money. I don't have anything. I just me and you putting out shows, and I just get paid from the ad dollars on YouTube and on Kick and on Twitch and all that, your subscriptions, stuff like that. But I do want to slide in an advertisement for my own shit for the Buyer app that can help you to fight back against this corporate cabal that they have set up that gets you to spend all your money on all these different companies that they own all of it. When you go to the grocery store, basically all the products in the grocery store are owned by public corporations, by megacorps. And all of those megacorps are primarily owned by BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, as well as the other bankers. All the different banks, all the investment firms. Look at their ownership sheets. Who owns the most of their stock? That's who owns all the voting rights. That's who controls the markets. That's who controls the corporations. That's who you're paying. And no, this is not a paid ad. This is my own freaking app that I built with my team of 3 homies. And we built it with no outside investment. There's no strings attached. And it's just information raw for you. The Buyer app is free on the App Store and the Google Play Store. Download it and you can scan anything in the grocery store. Not just food. You can also scan lotions, cosmetics, tampons, deodorant, whatever you want. And it'll tell you who owns that company and where's your money actually going. And it will help you to find family and founder-owned businesses that you can support so that you know that your money is actually going to a family that actually supports their own community, that actually cares about your health and your business and your dollars, rather than to Larry Fink and all of his buddies, to the bankers and all the things that they're doing with it. And you can vote with your dollar. So just want to quickly shout out the team that made the Buyer app. They are the same team that made the web app. It's me and 3 of my buddies. And we do it all with no outside investment, just us, just this channel, just trying to build tools for the public to get more information and then to use that information to fight back against this whole fucking system. So go check out the Buyer app, download it on your phone, try it out for free. If you want to support the work we do, the best way to do it is to just get the paid upgrade for the $5 a month subscription where you get way more features, you get way more tools in there, and that helps fund me and my team. It helps pay my team's wages. And it helps support making more cool tools like this in the future. So thank you for all of the Buyer app users. Thanks for all the beta testers that helped us build these things. And thanks for all the subscribing members of that. Huge shout out. Love it. Love it. And now, yeah, we got some Webbies and some buyers in the chat. Huge shout out to all of you that are using the tools, that are sharing the tools. Love to see it. Now, let's move on to our second big story of the day. But first, huge shout out to Stacy for gifting a whole bunch of subs in the chat like usual over on Kick. When we're done on YouTube, probably after another hour or so, long show tonight. When we're all done, we're going to close off YouTube and Twitch, and we're going to go over to Kick for the post show. We'll hang out for a little bit extra, maybe watch some extra shows, maybe comment on some stuff on X, maybe talk some extra shit. Speech is highly free on Kick. And so we get pretty wicked on Kick. I mean, as if we don't here on YouTube too. So far I haven't gotten banned. I haven't gotten any strikes, but I don't know how long that's going to last. So we'll see. We're building up the Kick community so that when the ride is over here on YouTube, we'll have somewhere to go. Because F them. F them. It's America. We have freedom of speech, and I'm damn well going to use it while we've still got it. Thank you very much. So, speaking of freedom of speech, our boy Tucker went to Israel. And there was all this drama on social media of Zionist influencers trying to come out the gun ahead of the story, ahead of the interview, to try to paint the whole thing as a hoax, to try to portray Tucker as like scared and anti-Semitic and a liar and all these. They're just doing Hasbara, And if you don't know about Hasbara, look it up. It's the Israeli practice of producing propaganda by lying to your fucking face. And Tucker had a really good opening. Let me see if I go down to my... Yeah, so he had this really good preface to the whole interview that I don't know if we really have the time to get into in a lot of ways, but it's very informative about the process of how this came to be, why it was this way, why all the weird propaganda came out, the security concerns that led to him doing this in the airport and not leaving the airport, the extremely strange treatment by the Israeli government and the security concerns around that and why it all happened this way and all that, the strange propaganda about the like released security video of him hugging someone that they tried to like portray as though Tucker Carlson's lying. Everyone was so nice to him. It's like they just think you're stupid. They think that you're stupid. And if you don't think for yourself and don't actually look at independent media and kind of like learn and actually get the primary sources, then you are stupid. And they're counting on you being that way. So, yeah, exactly. Chat gets it. Israel says stuff, and I just say, cool story, Israel. Right. Yeah, right. Cool. Cool story, bro. Basically, at this point, anything I hear that is pro-Israel, I immediately assume that it is paid propaganda. Because you are very well in an information war, and it is very much funded from that side. And the number, you can only tell like so many lies before it's all just lies. So I do recommend that you all go and watch the preface ahead of the interview. It's in the same video. Watch the whole thing. But we're not going to play any clips from the preface. We're going to try to focus on some of the main controversial points in the interview itself.
Sadly,
how many kids were killed?
We don't know.
What's your guess?
I don't know. I'm sure it was thousands, and it's thousands too many.
Of kids were killed.
Some of the kids who were killed had been recruited to be in the military. Kids as young as 14 years old.
Kids. Do you hear yourself? I wonder.
I just said that there were kids as young as 14 that were recruited to be Hamas soldiers who were given arms.
How do you feel about the kids being killed?
I think it's horrible. Oh. You know what I also think is horrible? I think it's horrible that 1,200 people were slaughtered by people across the border, and 252 people were taken hostage. 48 of the 1,200 were Americans.
Couldn't agree more.
And then when
all lives equal?
When Hamas could have ended this on October the 8th and given all the hostages up, they didn't, leaving no choice.
You're never going to get me to defend Hamas.
I hope
I'm not pro-Hamas. I hope totally
not.
Opposed to slaughtering innocents, whether Hamas does it or whether the government of Israel does it in much larger numbers. And the reason I'm opposed to it is because I'm a Christian and I believe that all souls are created by God.
I do not disagree with that wholeheartedly.
But I said, how many children have been...
When you say all humans are created equal, and the reply is, I don't disagree with that wholeheartedly, but...
War is a horrible thing, period. And we don't know. We know that a lot of the numbers were reported by Hamas.
But you said you think thousands...
So I do want to point out in this very first clip that I was wondering when the hype started around this and it became apparent that it was going to be a banger and that there was going to be a whole bunch of shit in here and that the Israelis were freaking out about it coming out and they needed to preempt its release to like get ahead of the story. My first thought was, why did they let Mike Huckabee do this interview? Why would they let him talk to Tucker? Because he doesn't have to talk to Tucker. At the time, I didn't know what the story was of how it came to be. But, like, they don't have to let him talk to Tucker. Like, we all know who Mike Huckabee answers to and is loyal to. And there had to be a reason why they let him talk to Tucker. And honestly, I think that it's because Mike Huckabee is actually very fucking good at this. Mike Huckabee is exceptionally good at propaganda and at Hasbara and is exceptionally bad at thinking for himself outside of Israel's interests. And so he is just such a firm NPC believer in the Israeli narrative that he's actually a great representative of the arguments. And he has a lot of moments in here where it's like, respect, bro. You're really good at lying on behalf of Israel. You're really good at doing the whole thought contortion thing, tying your brain into fucking weird knots on behalf of the genocidal Jewish ethno-state. Props. Props to you. But that being said, there's a whole bunch of clips in here that are like, oof, bro.
Of children have been killed.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know why they got killed? Because Hamas would gather up the children and put them in the targets. Do you know what Israel does? They send page messages and they send texts to every cell phone in Gaza, and they say, we're going to hit this particular target. They drop leaflets and they announce where they're going to hit. Nobody does that. The U.S. doesn't do that. Israel does that in order to prevent, let me finish this. They do this in order to prevent civilian casualties. What Hamas does, they say, oh, this is the target. And by gunpoint, they push people into those various places. And
no evidence of that. Show me evidence of that, please, Mr. Huckabee.
Then when people get killed, they say, look, Israel just slaughtered these people, even though it was Hamas who moved them into harm's way, knowing that it was going to put them in a place of danger and death and destruction. And they do that because they don't care. You say you care about life. I care about life.
It's interesting
that they don't care about life.
I'm not saying that Hamas does. You're never going to get me to defend Hamas. I'm
good.
I'm anti-Hamas.
You've said that 3 times, and I believe
your dig at the United States is very revealing.
This part right here.
Why is it revealing?
Because your priorities are very clear.
No.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And as an American, permit me a moment of outrage. Because I said many civilians have been killed.
Yeah.
And you said, right in the middle of your elaborate defense of the IDF's killing of civilians, including children, you said they do a better job than the United States does. That's my country and my government.
It's
which
my
I
country.
consider.
What flag am I wearing here?
Well, I'm asking, why is it
What flag am I wearing?
Well, that's, of course, my flag as well.
And it's my flag. It's who I serve.
So why the dig at the United States in the middle?
It's not a dig at them. No. You've totally misrepresented
What did you mean by that?
I did not take a dig at the U.S. What I'm saying is...
So the IDF is more humane than the U.S.?
I'm saying...
Military. Do you believe that?
I'm just saying that Israel takes steps that we don't take and no other country that I'm aware of takes to try to prevent. Because no matter what Israel does, they're going to get accused of genocide.
That may be right, and I'm...
Yeah, but it's not. And in Tucker's position, he wasn't in the position to refute it the way that it deserves to be refuted. So let's take a moment to give it the refutation that it fucking deserves. Because no, Israel does not fucking take steps to prevent the deaths of civilians. And I would like to introduce you to, if you do not know, Valhalla VFT, Nate, who is a former Green Beret, who was in the global war on terror, who intimately knows what America does to prevent civilian deaths. And it will give you a perfect breakdown of how Israel treats civilian life.
This right here. Yes, so Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has confirmed 2 days ago he will run for re-election in November of 2026, seeking to extend his hold on power despite corruption charges and mounting opposition.
Sorry, I'm at the end of it because I was previewing it earlier.
Very convenient, but we also need to stop calling.
So he's reacting to a clip by Itamar Ben-Gvir, a genocidal fuckface. I'm going to get this video demonetized. I'm swearing too much. Sorry. Got big feelings over here in America. So Itamar Ben-Gvir is saying, now that we've received the hostages, we must return to war and open the gates of hell upon Gaza. Because, obviously.
So there you go. Now they can continue the war at full bore because they don't have to worry about the hostages anymore. Now they got the hostages back. Now they can really get down to business. It's actually smart, very convenient. But we also need to stop calling this a war. This is not a war, okay? A war is between two nation states, okay? Israel is not at war with Palestine. This is, at best, if you want to be charitable, counterterrorism operations, counterinsurgency operations, which we as Green Berets spent most of our time doing in the global war on terror. And I can tell you, when I look at this, this is not a war. I did counterterrorism operations against the Taliban, and it looked nothing like this. We were not allowed to just indiscriminately bomb everything.
But Nate, what if you drop leaflets first? What if you put out flyers that say that we're going to bomb the hospital? We sent a text message that said, hey, we're going to bomb the school. So it's all good, bro. It's all good. We dropped some pieces of paper, allegedly, that said we would bomb the civilian infrastructure. So it's all good, bro. Right, Nate?
Rebuilding. See, when America does counterterrorism operations, it's very, very surgical. You use special operation forces. You oftentimes are dealing with a ton of civilians in the area. We would have tons and tons of civilians on every target I've pretty much ever been on, and you have to work around that. We don't get to just indiscriminately destroy anything because somebody shot at us from one of those buildings, all right? Especially if there's civilians inside or dealing with human shields, which is things we had to deal with. This is what this looks like. There's nothing there. It's all gone. This isn't counterterrorism. This isn't counterinsurgency. That's not how any of this looks. We all know what this is. You know what this actually looks like, guys? This looks more like this. This looks more like a nuclear bomb went off, which is kind of the opposite of a surgical operation, actually. Now, do you want to know how we know for pretty much 100% certainty that this war is not going to end? It's this right here. Yes, so Israeli.
Yeah, so no, Mr. Huckabee, you can get absolutely fucked. Try asking your own military from the nation you claim to serve exactly how many pains they take, exactly how many risks they put themselves at to prevent civilian casualties in American military operations. And then try to tell them that Israel does better, that Israel is more careful about civilian life. Please tell us more about how careful Israel is to prevent the deaths of civilians, while the death count is somewhere in the range of tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of civilians, largely children. No, thank you.
I'm just telling you that they.
But then let me ask you on that question. That's such a politically loaded.
But I resent the idea that you think that I'm not loyal to the U.S.
Well,
or that I somehow.
Look, I'm not saying you're not loyal.
I'll say it, Mr. Huckabee. You're not loyal to shit. You're a Zionist. You're loyal to Israel, and you'll do anything on behalf of Israel. And your entire spiel is Israel. You're not loyal to America. Read the Epstein documents, please. We'll get to those clips later. Read the Epstein documents. You are loyal to the nation that was sexually trafficking American children on behalf of Israel to blackmail American politicians and financiers and business people on behalf of Israel, subverting our nation on behalf of yours by trafficking American children. You're not loyal to America, whether you think you are or not. Doesn't help if you're ignorant to the fact that you're retarded. You're still retarded. I hope that helps. I know Tucker's not going to say it. I'll say it. Mr. Huckabee, F you.
Merely noting what you just said, which was that the IDF takes greater pains than the U.S., our military does, to spare civilian lives. And I guess my question is, when was the last time the U.S. military killed this many civilians? Do you know?
Well, it could have been Nagasaki, Hiroshima.
Literally just says it. I mean, the IDF takes so many pains to spare civilian lives. So when was the last time that the U.S. killed this many kids? Well, it was when they dropped nuclear bombs on civilian locations. So then this time when we're killing that many civilians, it's because of something so bad like World War II, right? No. It's because of a terrorist attack that we intentionally let happen by sending all of our troops away from the border, ignoring all the intelligence reports that we had, and doing a stand down order so they could get their whole job done, so we could start this war, because we wanted this war real bad. Not to mention that a huge number of those civilians that were killed on that day were killed by Israeli forces in Israeli helicopters, firing Israeli Hellfire missiles under the Hannibal Directive. That is admitted by Israel openly. Yeah. Okay. Cool story, bro. So let's get into the Jonathan Pollard part. Oh boy, the Jonathan Pollard part.
Was in our country, and in this, and remember it, in 2000.
Basically courtesy meeting. He wanted to thank me for being.
Okay. I'm gonna rewind to the beginning of this piece.
Thank you very much for focus. Apologize for that. Each other. No, don't, Zionist.
You and I have known each other, so
yes,
I appreciate very much
all
your coming here.
But I hope that I will be back soon, and I hope the country. I've been here a lot, and there are a lot of things I love about our sense of it. So I want to ask you. Everyone I've talked to in preparation for this has said the same thing. Jonathan Pollard.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw the name to you and have you explain.
No, I'm glad.
If you don't know who Jonathan Pollard is, okay, I didn't link it there. Let's just really quickly do a little backstory here. We'll get some in the clips as well. Jonathan Pollard was an American Jew that worked in the U.S. government, that flipped and became a spy for Israel. And during the Cold War, collected a whole bunch of America's most sensitive military secrets, including battle plans and military strategy, and sold them to Israel, sent them to Israel, that then flipped around and sold them to Russia, our enemy, the USSR. The most egregious leak, the most egregious intelligence leak in American history. A traitor of absolutely epic proportions on behalf of Israel, because he was Jewish and because his first allegiance was to the Jewish state, not to his nation, where he was born, where he was raised, where he was given a career and a future and trust. We'll get into why that part is so important in just a little bit here. But if you don't know who Jonathan Pollard was, he's this piece of shit.
Glad you asked. You know, interestingly, there's been a lot of things about it. You're the first person who has asked me about it, which I find amazing.
And he had a secret meeting with Jonathan Pollard in Israel, in the embassy, that became kind of a hot button thing. And we'll hear a little bit of his explanation. We'll probably skip a little bit.
So I'm glad. Jonathan Pollard 2 times. Once I was making a speech in Jerusalem. This has been a few years ago. His wife was still alive at the time, and he was there. And someone introduced me to him and his wife. I said hello to them. That was it. Hi. Nice to meet Esther, his wife, and that was it. I went and made my speech, and I left. Later, his wife passed away here in Israel. And I sent him a note and just said, I'm sorry to hear about your wife. I remember meeting her at the hotel.
Yeah. When the fucking traitor of the century has a death in the family, you know what your job is as the ambassador to the nation he betrayed? It's to send your condolences. Imagine if Jeffrey Epstein was alive and his wife, Ghislaine, died. And Mike Huckabee was like, hey, Jeffrey, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss. I know it's really hard on you when girls die. I feel really bad for you. Sorry, bud. Is that how we do it? Is that how we do it, Mike? Is that how we treat traitors?
And sorry to hear it. He then asked, could he come and see me? He wanted to come and thank me for being kind to him.
Totally normal thing for a traitorous spy to do. Oh, hey, thanks for the condolences. Could I come and have a meeting with you about how condolent you were? Gosh, thanks for being so sorry for me, Mr. Ambassador to America that I betrayed. Could I come and have a meeting with you? That's a little suspicious. That's a little weird, Mike. Is there a recording of this meeting, Mr. Mike? Because seems like the kind of meeting that should probably be recorded. You probably shouldn't be meeting off the record with Israeli spies that betrayed the American government. Imagine if it was Jeffrey Epstein who betrayed America. And you're like, I'm so sorry to hear about your wife, Ghislaine. Such a great gal. Such a great gal. Sorry that she's dead. And Jeffrey's like, oh, man, thanks for being so sorry for me, bud. Can I come have a meeting with you? Off the record. Yeah, no problem, bro. Let's meet for 30 minutes, 45. Who cares? You should probably record that. Just saying. Because you're meeting with a spy. For an adversarial nation. And in this case, a spy that advocates spying on America on behalf of Israel. That advocates being adversarial. That literally advocates using nuclear weapons to defend Israel. Literally advocates nuking America. Jonathan Pollard does. And we are going to watch those clips in just a moment. This motherfucker met off the record with an Israeli spy that advocates for nuking America. But don't worry, because he's got an American flag pin on. Do you see what flag is this? What flag is this, Tucker? You see this flag? That's the country I represent.
He came to the embassy. I think we met for maybe 30 minutes. We had a nice, pleasant visit. The funny thing was the New York Times reported that it was a secret meeting. Tucker, if you've ever been to the U.S. Embassy, you would know there's no such thing as a secret meeting at the U.S. Embassy.
Sure. Then I'm sure there's a recording of it, Mr. Huckabee. I'm sure there's a recording of your not secret meeting. Because here's the thing. If there's not, then yeah, it's a fucking secret meeting. Then yeah, you exchange secret words with an Israeli spy that we don't know what they are. And we would all like to know, Mr. Huckabee. So thank you very much. If you have a recording of your not secret meeting, we would love to hear it verbatim. And if there's no recording of it, then yes, actually, that is a secret meeting. Doesn't matter that we all know what happened. We all know that they all met with Jeffrey Epstein, too. We all know that all that happened. Nothing's getting done about it. All kinds of secret meetings happening out here that we know happened.
There are cameras everywhere. You walk through Marines, you walk through security, you walk through the front office, and there's a dozen or more people that are going to check you out when you come. And before you get there, you're going to have to give us your passport information. You're going to have to be vetted and screened and all of this stuff. So the idea that it was secret.
So they did all that stuff and they decided, yeah, let's let this fucking Israeli spy walk in here and meet with Mr. Ambassador. That's almost weirder. That is a little bit weirder, dog. That's pretty fucking weird. Why are we letting Israeli spies meet with you?
It was ludicrous. The whole idea is, look, Jonathan Pollard did something that was terribly wrong. He sold secrets. He shouldn't have done it. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison and spent 30, actually was, I think he was sentenced to maybe more than 30 years, but he spent 30 years in prison. Most people convicted of something similar, which was one count, I believe, would have spent 2 to 4, but he spent 30. I don't have a problem with him spending 30 because I think what he did was despicable. I'm not defending anything about what he did. But even people like the former director of the CIA, a number of other senators on the Senate Foreign Relations of the Senate Intel Committee said that he should be allowed to leave and move to Israel if he wanted to. So it, to me, was not as big a deal that I had this basically courtesy meeting. He wanted to thank me for being nice to him when his wife...
Took him 30 minutes to thank you for being nice to him. Couldn't have done that over the phone. Couldn't have done that over a letter. Couldn't have done that in writing. Saying, thanks, bud. Appreciate it. Had to have an in-person, off-the-record meeting with the ambassador. That sounds a little suspicious, bud. No, that does not sound like a courtesy thank you meeting.
wife died. That's pretty much the story.
You advocated for his release when you ran for, I remember it, in 2011.
I'm pretty sure that I've got that pulled up here. These are Pollard interviews of Pollard being a fucking piece of shit. This is a compilation of Mr. Huckabee. Compilation of Mr. Huckabee's finest moments.
If the people of Egypt are really seeking for there to be democracy and for a level of freedom.
This is from 15 years ago, so 2011? That's wild.
That's a good thing. But they can't have it by rioting in the streets and looting stores. That's not a good thing. And that does not lead to a peaceful environment. I guess the main hope is that there's an understanding that any attempt to bring radical jihadism into Egypt, and particularly into its form of government, would take away the very thing that supposedly they're in the streets demanding. And
I do just want to point out that the title of this is Mike Huckabee Visits Israel, Says to Free Jonathan Pollard, posted by the Jerusalem Post. And the caption here is, likely Republican presidential candidate spoke to the Jerusalem Post about hot topics like the Egyptian protests and troubled peace talks as seen on jpost.com. And I just want to point out the subtext here that, remember that if Mike Huckabee, this avid Christian Zionist that to this day is still pulling water for Israel, if he was a likely Republican presidential candidate 15 years ago, who do you think was the ones deciding that maybe he could be a presidential candidate? It was Israel. It was the Epstein network. It was the Rothschilds. It was the Ehud Baraks and Netanyahus of this world. It was their networks that were all vetting all of the pro-Israel candidates that might be able to make the cut that they could install as the leaders of our country. That's the era that was, that we are still in today. And so if this man was a likely Republican presidential candidate, as reported by the Jerusalem Post, just remember that he was a prime candidate for the highest position of Jewish honor on behalf of Israel. Now, he didn't make the cut in the end, but that doesn't mean that he's not still a high candidate for Jewish honor on behalf of Israel in whatever other positions they prepare for him along the way in the future. And right now, he is the U.S. ambassador to Israel. And that's a pretty important position for him to be in. So maybe he didn't make the cut for president, top goy, but he sure is still pulling his weight. And I just wanted to, remember the context of all of this.
that's their own freedom.
Likely U.S. Republican presidential candidate and Fox News talk show host Mike Huckabee is visiting Israel again to support America's commitment to Israel. He spoke to the Jerusalem Post about a number of hot topics like the Egyptian demonstrations, and Huckabee added that U.S. should free Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard as a proof of America's friendship.
So yeah, he was advocating 15 years ago that America should free this traitorous spy as proof of America's friendship to Israel. Hey, let's prove to them how friendly we are to them by freeing the guy that betrayed us on behalf of them. Because that's what friends do, right? Hey, while we're at it, maybe we should free Ghislaine and send her back over there just to prove to them how friendly we are to them. Because they're such a good friend to us. Right, Mike? Weird. Is there a reason
right
to watch
now
more?
We don't need anything to reflect
we'll watch
that we're anything but an absolute ally of Israel. This would send the right message to the rest of the world, that America is not pulling back on its friendship and relationship with Israel, but it is accelerating and making sure that we're taking every step possible to solidify those bonds.
Huckabee said he is still undecided about a possible run for the Republican presidential nomination in 2012. The former governor is touring the Judea and Samaria regions and East Jerusalem alongside movie star Jon Voight. And while standing in front of the controversial Shepherd Hotel, Huckabee said he supports Jewish building in all areas of Israel and the West Bank.
Supports the illegal settlements.
I think that Jewish people have a right to build in their homeland, and certainly that's something I would expect as an American to be able to live where I wanted to live in my country. I think the Jews should have the same opportunity to do that in their homeland.
So this guy's been a piece of shit for a long time. Just to be clear, don't take Tucker's polite affect as indication that this guy's not a piece of shit.
Long before he had served 30 years. And I agree with you that there are a lot of people languishing in prison, in our country and in this country, many countries, for longer periods than they deserve. And I think it's a Christian impulse to want to see them free. But this was the greatest traitor in modern American history who sold our battle plans against the Soviet Union, our main enemy in the Cold War, to the Israeli government, which according to our Reagan CIA director, Bill Casey, then gave them to the Soviet Union. So this was the most profound betrayal of the United States in my lifetime. Why advocate for that guy's release before he serves his full sentence?
If that were the case in 2011, it would have been because I had a number of friends that suggested that he had more than served time, and he didn't want to live in the U.S. anymore. He wanted to live in Israel. And but my association with him, again, I had never met him until I met him in Jerusalem at a hotel. That was the first time.
The biggest non-answer fucking ever. You had some friends that suggested that you release the spy? Yeah, I bet you got some friends that are suggesting that Epstein is all good. I bet you got some friends that are suggesting that Epstein is a great guy. Don't look into Epstein. And I just had friends that said so. So I was like, oh, whatever. Let's talk about something else now, please.
Time I had ever encountered him.
I'm friends with a million bad people. Or I've
have a meeting at his request. I did. And frankly, I don't regret it. I met with a lot of people over the course of the time I've been here, and we'll meet with a lot more.
So, while we're here talking about Jonathan Pollard, let's just get a little context on who the piece of shit that we're talking about is.
Reflect proportional justice. It reflected political vengeance, plain and simple.
You can't name a single person ever caught spying for an ally of the United States.
Pop quiz. Who is this man? Pop quiz chat. Who is this man? Do you recognize him? Because, oh boy, was I lost my mind when I saw this. I just pulled this out. This is an old 60 Minutes interview. And this is your fucking boy, Alan the D. Alan the Big D Dersh. Here's the real question, though, chat. Was Alan Dershowitz uglier back then, or is he uglier today? Because it's a fucking tough call, dude. It's a tough call, dude. Like, oh my God. Right?
States government who's gotten life.
Alan Dershowitz, a Harvard law professor, was recently retained by Jonathan Pollard.
Jonathan Pollard.
Surprise! Alan Dershowitz represents all the worst fucking Jewish criminals in the world. Not just Jeffrey Epstein.
Is a spy.
Absolutely. And he was justly convicted and justly sentenced to a term of imprisonment. That's what he deserved. But the idea that he should be treated as if he were a spy who had sold nuclear secrets to the Soviet Union, what did he do? He pleaded guilty. He fully cooperated. He helped the government in its damage assessment. He spied for a country which was an ally of the United States. He
spied for a country that was an ally of the United States on fucking the United States, bro. Alan Dershowitz, dog. Who, by the way, is in the Epstein files as working for the Mossad directly. He is in the Epstein files as being debriefed by Mossad directly. Just throwing it out there. I just wanted to show you how atrocious this man looks in this one, but this is the real one.
To the point where we are now, I mean, it's hard for me to admit this, we are now feeding our enemy. I mean, this has never happened in history.
So to be clear, this is grown-up, old Jonathan Pollard after he's been set free, sent back to Israel, all done. And now he hangs out in Israel, and he gives interviews where he says stuff like this.
Before, and you have to ask why. And I don't want to hear this business that it's consistent with Jewish morality. It isn't. Anybody saying that doesn't know anything about Jewish morality at all.
He's about to teach you about Jewish morality, by the way.
Well, I think also our leaders have had their necks in a vice grip by other countries who...
Okay, let me give you an example of that. I was criticized very heavily for opposing the ceasefire, the American-imposed ceasefire in Lebanon on us. And I was told by certain people in the government, look, we didn't have choice because we were being threatened with a complete cutoff of arms. So I listened to this, and the individual telling me this said, you don't believe this, or what? I said, no, I believe that the Biden administration, as I called it, did threaten us. But I said, you're mistaken if you think there's never a choice. There was a choice. He said, well, what? Is it to have our weapons cut off? I said, no, let me bring you back to October 1973.
He's about to describe what he thought that maybe if America's going to threaten Israel with cutting off our weapons supplies, with giving us free fucking gifts, maybe next time they threaten to cut off our fucking gifts that they're giving us for free, next time we should do this to them.
During the Yom Kippur War, when Henry Kissinger instituted an arms embargo against us, he stopped the aerial resupply of our army at that point to extract diplomatic concessions from us. And what happened? What happened was an A-4 Skyhawk was parked at Tel Nof Air Base with some interesting weapons under its wings. And we told the Americans, take your eye in the sky and take a good look at the airplane that's on that runway. And the next day, the airlift started.
Just to be very clear, what he just did is he described a story where Henry Kissinger back in the day put an embargo on Israel to try to be like, hey guys, fucking get in line, bro. We give you all this shit. Get in line. Calm the fuck down, or else we're not giving you stuff. And Israel put a bunch of nukes on a plane, parked that plane out on the runway, and said, hey, America, go look at the plane. Use your little spy satellites and go look at the plane with the nukes on it. You know, the nukes that we don't have. Just imagine what we're going to do with that plane if you don't keep giving us free weapons. And oh, magically, the next day, the arms embargo stopped. That works so good. That's a great idea. Jonathan Pollard is saying that that was exactly the strategy that Israel should be employing. They should be threatening everybody with nukes. But let's take it one step farther, shall we?
So the guy that I was talking...
Which airlift?
To Israel.
Uh-huh.
The arms airlift.
So in other words, we threatened their...
We threatened to use unconventional weapons. I'll leave it at that. And so he said, is this what you want us to threaten now? I said, absolutely, except this time I want us to go forward with it if necessary. If they think we're bluffing, we go forward with it. Look,
wait.
Yeah, wait. Let's fucking clarify what he just said. Let's clarify real quick what this Jewish spy that Mr. Mike Huckabee had a secret meeting with, who's really not a big deal, just a friendly meeting with, this is what he thinks. He thinks that if Israel doesn't get its way, we should put a bunch of nukes on planes, and Israel should take those planes with nukes out and say, hey, everybody, get in line. Do what the Jews say, or we're going to fly these nukes out and we're going to bomb you. And Israel should be prepared to drop them. That's what Jonathan Pollard thinks of America. That's what Jonathan Pollard thinks of all the world that's not Jewish. This is a Jewish world. And if you don't do what we say, we should nuke you. But don't worry, guys. The Samson option is just made up. It's just a conspiracy theory. It's just a lie. It's just a hoax. Jonathan Pollard's just making up crazy stories. He's just talking crazy like.
Some people might look at this and hear you saying these things and say, he's a dangerous dude. You know, he could.
No, he's pretty much just an Israeli. He's just an Israeli. Pretty much just an average Israeli at this point is what that seems like. I hate to say it, but we've seen a few too many videos of Israelis being absolute effing psychopaths directly into the camera. And the gig is kind of up. We kind of know what's up now. That's literally just him being Israeli. So this is his warm welcome from Benjamin Netanyahu when he first returned to Israel. His real allegiance to Israel. He kissed the ground in Israel and is welcomed by his master when he was released from prison. Released from prison, sent right back to his boys. And I think I have one more clip. This one's just him whining about how badly he was treated in prison, which is like, yeah, that sucks, dude. Your stories suck. If that's what America was doing to you, that's unfortunate. A little self-awareness for complaining as an Israeli Jew, complaining about prisoners being treated badly and being raped and stuff. Oh boy, the self-awareness is not on point, bud. But I don't really care to subject you to hearing him whine. But I did want to just show you, the treatment he gets now. He's treated like a fucking celebrity in Israel.
Drinking from Jonathan's favorite winery and
they're having a podcast. They're doing an interview with the famous Israeli spy, Jonathan Pollard. And what do? We're drinking wine. We're having a good time.
That Wine and the Vine has started working with the Kabir Winery in the Sumerian Hills near Alon Moreh.
I don't want to play their music.
The Merlot today, okay, which John and I both happen to like.
We're going to be tasting the Merlot today.
Merlot, one thing is quite tough, let alone growing it where Kabir. Correct.
This guy's getting funded. He's getting all the perks. He's getting treated like a hero. He's getting the celebrity status. He's getting interviewed. He's got it all. He did his service. Now he reaps his reward. So, Tucker Carlson. Maybe I should bring up the clip of Tucker bringing this up before I show the evidence to back it up.
That's it.
So if you spell over and Hackins in prison in Israel, sex offender government official who was caught trying to molest a 15-year-old girl.
Oh, well, now he's getting into all the other good stuff that Israel has done for us. I think I might have skipped over the part where Tucker calls out the fact that Jonathan Pollard famously called for all American Jews to spy on America for Israel. Jonathan Pollard famously argues that all American Jews should actually just have allegiance to Israel and should all think about working for the Mossad and being ready to answer the call should it ever come, which obviously is just a conspiracy theory. It is just a crazy anti-Semitic conspiracy theory to think that the call from Mossad would ever come to an American Jew like Jonathan Pollard, who advocates that all Jews inherently have dual loyalty. In fact, they actually only have one loyalty, which is to Israel. And it was the interview where he made the exact claim that Tucker is referring to, by my understanding, was a print interview, not a video interview. He has made very similar claims in video interviews before. But you can find lots of reporting about that print interview and quoting him on that. American Jewry has one major problem. They consider themselves more American than they do Jews. If you don't like the accusation of double loyalty, then go home, he said. Jonathan Pollard said. Go back to Israel, because that's where Jews belong, according to Jonathan Pollard. It's as simple as that. If you live in a country where you are constantly under that charge, then you don't belong there. You go home. You come home. If you're outside Israel, then you live in a society in which you are basically considered unreliable. The self-awareness is so low, it blows my brains out, dude. The bottom line is on this charge of dual loyalty is, I'm sorry, we're Jews. And if we're Jews, we will always have dual loyalty, he added. His words, not mine. Man, I wonder why people around the world would be worried about the dual loyalty question, Jonathan Pollard. Geez, head scratcher. Why is everyone around the world worried about the dual loyalty thing, Jonathan fucking Pollard? It's a mystery. I didn't pass algebra, so I don't really understand why they would be so worried about it. But oy vey, if they're worried about it, I guess that we should just lean into it harder and spy on America for Israel. That's Jonathan Pollard for you. That is Jonathan Pollard. So, just wanted to bring that up a little bit. Just make a mention of it. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to my document or go this way.
And get a better sense of it. So I want to ask you, everyone I've talked...
No, so that's the Jonathan Pollard one queued up. Killing of Christians. The biblical right.
Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the...
Okay. I got to hype this one up a little more before we just jump in like that. We got to preamble this one a little bit because, oh my God, this part is so fucking good.
To the Lebanon border. And Israel did have control of the Sinai. They gave that.
What I'm saying, because it's a very famous court case.
The right of return has to do with your mother, your grandmother. It has to do with family ties.
It's ethnic.
So this part, all the parts, this whole interview is so topsy-turvy with Mike Huckabee just wrapping his answers into pretzels of logical inconsistency, of Jewish supremacy, of absolute Christian cuckery, that you really can't pull any one clip and get the actual fullness of how retarded this thing is. But we're trying to try our best to kind of skim through it a little bit and get the gist of the whole thing. But you really should just watch the whole thing for yourself, because Tucker tries to get Mr. Huckabee to describe exactly who has a right to this land and why does he think that for like 35 minutes. And Mr. Huckabee just keeps going back and forth and back and forth and fucking tying it all in. It's just like, what are you even saying, bro?
There's a lot of, sure, ethnicity is a big part of the right of return.
Great.
To make Aliyah, then, to come to Israel, to live here.
Then if both of your parents are Jewish and you have an ethnic right to the land, you are one of Abram's descendants, but you convert to Christianity, how is it you don't have the right to return? I'm totally confused.
But I know a number of people who have returned as Christians, but have Jewish history.
Are
and
you
Jewish
saying that Jews who convert to Christianity have a right, a legal right to return? Because I
know that they do. Whether, when you say, do they have a right to return, do they prove?
It's a legal category, as in any government.
Which is by their family history, their grandmother, their mother, and there are many aspects of that.
I've read it. I think,
but I know that these are people who are Christian, and they came here, made Aliyah. They had Jewish blood, Jewish history. They were Christian, Messianic, but they came here, and they were welcomed here.
And they were given full legal rights here.
Absolutely.
And a passport.
Yeah.
So clearly, it's not true that you invalidate your right of return by converting to Christianity. That's just false.
I'm not aware of that. I know that there are a number of Christians here. I go to church with Christians every week here.
Of course.
And
but do you have a right to come and say, I am an ethnic Jew, even though I practice Christianity, therefore I have every bit as much right to move into a settlement in the West Bank or into East Jerusalem or anywhere?
I'm sure that all the Jews in Israel believe that. I'm sure they're all really down with that. I'm sure that they would love to have you, Christians.
I want Galilee anywhere because I'm returning to the land of my forefathers. I have a legal right in the state of Israel, even though I've converted to Christianity. You're saying that's true?
I'm saying I know people who've done it. Now, can I?
I'm saying I'm going to avoid your fucking question because I'm busy doing Hasbara and you're fucking really asking a question right here and it's getting a little uncomfortable. So let me do the whole grandpa thing.
Tell you what the law specifically is? I'm not sure because
it's really
I'm a Christian. I don't have any Jewish roots, so therefore I cannot quote you the law. If you want me to do that, I'll look at it.
Well, it really matters because you're saying, in fact, people in the United States are being called anti-Semites. A lot of them, including me, because they somehow don't believe that Israel has a right to this land.
Do you think Israel has a right to this land?
No, you haven't defined what the land is, and you haven't defined who Israel is. So I really don't know.
It is the land they're living in now, the borders that they have.
The borders are moving. The borders have moved in the last year.
What do you mean the borders have moved?
Well, they are the 1967 borders. I'm including, the
East
West
Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria.
They move every year because they keep stealing Palestinian land in the West Bank and starting new illegal settlements every year that are illegal under every read of every version of all international law. That Israeli leadership basically is just like, yeah, we're just going to ignore all that because fuck it, because we want all the land. Just to be clear.
What are the borders of Judea and Samaria?
Well, you basically take the Jordan River, and it's west of the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, to the Lebanon border. And Israel did have control of the Sinai. They gave that to Egypt. They had control of it.
Right.
They gave it away in 1979 in the peace agreement.
But, okay.
So
whatever you call it, the land that was taken from Jordan in 1967, you call it Judea and Samaria. There's a significance to that I don't fully understand. I'm not against it.
It's the biblical
know what it's the biblical
terms. 80% of the Bible happened in Judea and Samaria.
But we've also established that the Bible gives Jews the right to occupy the land from the Nile to the Euphrates. So I'm very confused by why we've shrunk the land and why we're
Israel has shrunk the land. They have made that decision. Okay. That's why they gave away Gaza. They gave away the Sinai.
Now's the part
They've
for
given
the
away
real
a
question.
lot of things.
Abram's descendants are the ones who have the right to have this land, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abram's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that.
Fuck yeah, Tucker. Fuck yes. I'm not sure I've ever heard Tucker say something that I loved hearing more. Why don't we do genetic testing and figure out exactly who has a genetic lineage to this land, Mr. Huckabee? Hey, Ben Shapiro, why don't we do genetic testing to figure out exactly who has a genetic lineage to the descendants of Abraham if you're so biblical about the whole thing? Wouldn't that be great to know who the descendants of Abraham are? Wouldn't it be great to know just how connected to the land Benjamin Netanyahu is? Wouldn't it be great? Because then we could put all of the anti-Semitism to rest at last. And we could find out who the real Semites are. But it's a little weird that genetic testing is basically outlawed. And it's so incredibly hard to get done. And no one ever does it in Israel. Despite the fact that that being the whole biblical case for Israel. Fuck yeah, Tucker. Yeah, that is the real question. Let's listen to it one more time, please, because that's just music to my ears. And his face when he says it, he knows it.
They gave away Gaza. They gave away the Sinai.
Now's the part for the real question.
They've given away a lot of things.
Abram's descendants are the ones who have the right to have this land, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abram's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that.
Do you think Ben Shapiro is a descendant of Abraham? Do you think that the Rothschilds are descendants of Abraham? Do you think Ehud Barak and Jeffrey Epstein and Leslie Wexner are descendants of Abraham? Yeah. We all know why they don't want to do genetic testing.
Why don't we do that? Would you be against doing that?
I have no idea what that would prove. I mean,
Really?
You're not very smart, are you, Mike? You're not very smart.
maybe it would be.
What do you mean? What it would prove who Abram's descendants are and who has a right to live here and who doesn't, according to the theology that you yourself just explained. And so I'm very confused as to why we don't do that. If you believe the theology that you've just explained to me.
Would we do that all over the world?
Well,
and everybody
this is the only country in the world that you've said has this covenant with God, that this people.
Which, by the way, is bullshit. That's complete retardation, obviously. And by the way, since when are we forcing your religion onto other people's fucking lands and shit? But aside from all of that, let's take his professed religious beliefs, as they are, and let's just hold them accountable to their own fucking belief systems.
People have a moral and legal right to the land.
What about people who convert to Judaism? Would they have a right?
Well, you've just said.
I mean,
that
there are
it's
converts
not,
to Judaism, so
you just told
they
me,
can make Aliyah. They may not have.
You've just
DNA.
told me that it doesn't matter. You told me moments ago, trying to keep track.
Okay.
That it doesn't matter whether or not
lies.
you believe in God or whether or not you practice Torah Judaism or Rabbinic Judaism, which is something else that I don't even know if we should. I don't even know what that means. But it doesn't matter whether you're, quote, a religious Jew or not. What matters is that you are part of the Jewish people to whom God gave this land that extends from the Nile to the Euphrates. And so if you believe that, wouldn't you want to know with a burning passion who those people are? And because of science, we can now know who those people are. So why aren't we finding out?
I guess you could propose a DNA test for everybody who comes here, everybody who lives here.
Somewhere.
But the
I'm comfortable with secular nation states where none of this is done on the basis of blood. I'm uncomfortable with that. I'll just say that.
But there are people who may not have bloodlines, but who have converted to Judaism. Are they going to be able to live here? Are you going to kick them out?
By your standards, they can't live here.
No,
because
I've
you've just
never
told
said,
me
that
they have a right to live here because God gave them the land because they're the descendants of Abram.
They're the descendants of Abraham. But if they're the spiritual descendants of Abraham and they've now decided that they're converting to Judaism, then do they have a right to live in Israel?
Well,
Mr. Huckabee, see, I'm going to decide that I'm the spiritual descendant of Abraham, and I'm going to need a 0% interest loan, please, like the rest of the tribesmen. I'm going to need some free health care like the rest of the tribesmen. I'm going to need like a recommendation to go to Harvard, maybe a job at a bank, maybe some help with the stock market. I could really use maybe some elevation in political circles. I could use some of that sweet bot juice that you guys got floating around on X, because you see, I'm spiritually descended from Abraham, bud. I could use a house too. If you guys could steal some land for me, I would really love to have a house, because see, I spiritually feel like I'm descended from Abraham, bud. Is that how it works? Is that how it works? Because we didn't watch the clip earlier. I don't know if I'll be able to find it, where Tucker rightly points out that, like, wait a minute. Like, are we talking about religious Judaism? Or are we talking about like ethnic Judaism? Because Benjamin Netanyahu is not religious. The founders of Israel were atheists. They weren't religious. So obviously it's not about being a religious Jew. So is it about being an ethnic Jew? And the answer is, oh yeah, it's about the blood of Abraham, right? Right? Well, yeah, but like they're all from fucking Poland. We've got to have it. We've got to have is it not in here? It's got to be in here. Genocide, Christians in Israel, Pollard. No, it's not marked. But we'll see if we can't snipe it.
wants to have peace in. They're not trying to have a homeland where they have security and safety. Did you believe that the Jews have a right to live in Israel? Do you believe that Jews have a right to live in Israel? That would be a Zionist. That's all a Zionist is.
I
It's
have
not
a
anything-
million questions about what all of those terms mean.
Yeah.
But conceptually, I wish Israel no harm. I don't want to see them
Do you want them to have a place where they can live with safety and security?
I saw this recently in an extreme.
They live all over the world with safety and security, by the way. Just wanted to point that out. They're the most protected class in this fucking country. Just wanted to point that out.
Really telling exchange between the lieutenant governor of Texas, who I know and I've always liked, and she said, I'm a Catholic, but I'm not a Zionist. And they have this ferocious exchange. And he kept saying, and everyone on the panel seemed to keep saying, you have to believe in Israel's right to exist, which I've never kind of questioned, just for the record. But it did raise two questions I think are really important, and I hope you'll answer them. One is, where does that right come from?
I would say it comes from, essentially, you could say it comes from the Bible. I would say that it does. But it comes also from a long iteration of historical precedents going to the Balfour Declaration of 1917.
Which was the Rothschilds purchasing a fucking country with a bunch of war deals, using their influence on nations to choose who won the war. That's what the Balfour Declaration was, is it was the Rothschilds using their banking powers to purchase the fucking country. Historical precedent.
It comes from the League of Nations 1927. It comes from the United Nations 1947, right? The Declaration of Independence of the Israel State in May of 1948.
Pay attention, because he's describing how vast and powerful this Jewish world order that has built this is. That has culminated in things like the Epstein trafficking network. That has culminated in the current state of America being ruled by this tiny little New Jersey country over there that's just a helpless little nation.
They were immediately attacked. They won the war. Country war.
We get it.
I was there.
But a Zionist simply means somebody who...
I have a right to exist?
Yes.
To exist? Well, no, but I want to know what that means. So, like, do other countries have a right to exist?
Well, they do exist.
Do they have a right to exist? You keep saying Israel has a right to exist, and I want to know what other countries have a right.
Legal right.
They go back and forth on this question. Tucker presses this question for like a solid 25 minutes or some shit. And Huckabee has nothing, obviously. He literally can't even say, yeah, every country has a right to exist. He later says, I mean, yeah, they have a right to exist, but if they can't defend themselves, then they lose that right. Fucking what? It gets so convoluted.
Connection to the history and connection to international law. But Israel, I think, does have an extraordinary
international law. So if, again...
Well, no, but let me finish this. Yeah. As a million evangelical Christian God.
Yeah.
So if I believe in the Old and the New Testament, I do believe that there is a very specific call to the Jewish people that started with Abraham, and he called them out of what is now modern-day Iraq, said, come where I send you. Looks out of time, there have been people living in this land connected to that moment of history. So there is a historical connection that is unbroken.
You've said that, and I want to ask you what that means a little more specifically, if that's okay. But first, let me just say that you could say the same thing of Britons who've been there in their land longer.
Is anyone trying to tell the Brits they can't live there anymore?
No, what's happening is...
But they are saying that to the Jews.
They get into the whole replacement migration thing.
But here's what I don't think
you think it would be fine if the state of Israel took over all of Jordan? They don't want to take...
Okay, this is the important part.
You're saying that's entirely fair for me with respect to ask, what land are you talking about? Because I just read Genesis 15, as I have many times. Mm-hmm. And that land, I think it says, from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is, once again, basically the entire Middle East. So God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis.
Yeah.
You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all.
Whoops. You were doing so good, Mike. And then you just said the quiet part out loud. Yeah, it would be fine if the Jews took it all. No problem. That's the American ambassador's position. It would be fine if they took it all. Let's just one more time.
To that land, because you're appealing to Genesis. Yeah. You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all. But I don't think that's what we're talking about here today.
That's what they've been talking about for almost my entire lifetime. If you haven't read the Clean Break Report, if you've never heard of the Greater Israel Project, this plan spans way back. It spans back into some pretty anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, too. In case you were wondering.
It would be fine. Well, it's exactly what we're talking about today.
But here's what I don't think
you think it would be fine if the state of Israel took over all of Jordan?
They don't want to take it over. They're not asking to take it over.
But you're saying that the reason...
They don't want to? Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why they're fighting a 7-front war with all of those countries right now. That's why they're doing regime change and putting in their puppets in all of those countries. That's why they're blackmailing everybody to allow them to do so. Right.
The reason that Israel is legitimate, has this inherent right to exist, is in part because God gave it to his people. And I am going to the same Bible that you're referring to and noticing that that is a huge piece of land. So if God gave them that land, then they have a right to take it now by your definition, unless I'm missing something completely.
Well, I think you're missing something because they're not asking to go back to take all of that. But
they've never asked for anything. They just go and take it by manipulation, blackmail, murder, extortion, starvation, genocide. Who cares? They just do it. Because if I don't steal the land, someone else will steal the land. Quote, that one Israeli fatso. Does anyone know his name? Does anyone know that guy's name? Classic clip. Classic clip. If you don't know the clip, I'll pull the clip. I'll find the fucking clip. It's just, I know that someone out there in the audience, I know that 99% of you guys have seen the clip. But I know there's at least one person out there that hasn't seen the clip. Okay? You got to see it. If you don't know, you got to see it.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
But
it's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
Jacob! No, Jacob. We need the whole video, Jacob. Give us the whole video.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is gonna steal it.
No one.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is gonna steal it. No one is gonna steal it. No one is stealing it except for you. You're stealing it. So yeah, if you have not seen this clip before, consider yourself, I was going to say educated, and then I was like, consider yourself J-pilled. Settler pilled? Israel pilled? Consider yourself Goyim. But at least now you're educated. Jacob thinks that if he doesn't steal it, someone else is going to steal it. To be clear, too, Jacob might be from America, if I remember correctly. Chat, can you correct me if I'm wrong? Is Jacob from Israel? Because I don't think Jacob was from Israel originally. Because if you didn't know how the settlements work, how the right of return works, you can be an American Jew like Jeffrey Epstein, who has the right of return based on your heritage. And you can go to the Israeli government and say, hey, I want a house in one of the settlements. And they will help you move from America into a stolen house on Palestinian land in the illegal settlements, and some motherfucker from New Jersey can go and just take a Palestinian home. And they've been doing this for decades against all international law, against the condemnations of all civil rights groups, of everybody. You can join the IDF and you can go shoot the Palestinians before you take their homes, just for fun. And a whole bunch of the IDF are actually Americans that just want to go shoot Palestinians. Women, children, doesn't matter. And then take their homes. Because if they don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it. So, just a quick tangent about Jacob, just to, let you know. Consider yourself educated on the meme.
They are asking to at least take the land that they now occupy, they now live in, they now own legitimately, and it is a safe haven.
That's that Hasbro seeping in again. He's got good Hasbro training. You slip in that word legitimately every time to try to infiltrate the mind of the listener to think it's legitimate. It's not legitimate. It was never legitimate. No. It was purchased by the Rothschilds. It was stolen via terrorism. It was armed with nukes via theft. And it's been protected by blackmail the entire time.
For them.
Well, but may I ask, though, as because you're explaining what Christian Zionism is and your theological beliefs. And you think you just said it would be fine with you if the state of Israel took all of Jordan, all of Syria, all of Lebanon.
That's really not exactly what I'm trying to say.
That's actually exactly what you just said, bro. That is exactly what you just said. And they go back and forth on it for like 20 more minutes. That's how all of these exchanges are, where Tucker asks him a really pointed question and they go back and forth on it for like 30 minutes, doing all this Hasbro fucking mind controls, twisty pretzels. And it doesn't make any more sense by the end than it does at the beginning. And often he contradicts himself 5 different times. Although, at least in the case of the genetic question, he gets him to go on the record saying that would be fine. It's like, why doesn't someone propose doing genetic testing? I don't know, Mike. Maybe someone should fucking propose doing genetic testing on all the Jews in Israel to figure out where they're all from. Excuse me. I'm allergic to bullshit. And I have a feeling that we just stirred some up with that question. Don't you think? I have a feeling that all these Polish immigrants, that all these Leslie Wexners probably aren't from the Levant. You know, all these motherfuckers that get sunburns when they go out in the sun for 5 minutes if they don't put on a bunch of sunscreen? They're probably not from the Levant. I don't think your skin evolves that fast. So the chat is saying Mike Huckabee. I don't think they even pay him any shekels. I think he just does it for free. I think he was born this way. Some people are just born retarded, actually.
Which was for Israel.
No,
they could have. And they could die now, and that's a real...
Last year when we never had war. Why do we have war?
We're about to have one with Iran, it looks like. How many Americans do you think will die in that war?
Just bam. Just bam. Bam.
I hope none. None died last year when we participated in the 12-day war. Not one. You said 20,000 would die, and they didn't.
I said could, and they could have.
But
they could die now, and that's a real risk.
How many boots on the ground do you think the U.S. has supplied for Israel over the course of its life?
He really asked this question thinking that it's going to be a gotcha. How many boots on the ground has America supplied on behalf of Israel, do you think? Well, gee, Mike, I'm glad you fucking asked.
How many times have we put soldiers on the ground for Israel?
Well, we had the Iraq War, which was for Israel.
No,
literally the entire global war on terror. The entire global war on terror. Not just the Iraq War. Okay? Ask the Green Berets that have seen the tiny mud hut where Osama bin Laden allegedly planned 9/11 with no cell service, no contact, no internet. We all know that Osama bin Laden did not plan 9/11 in some mud hut in the mountains of Afghanistan. We all know that Osama bin Laden didn't plant bombs in all 3 of those towers, including Building 7 which you never like to talk about. We all know that Osama bin Laden wasn't running the Jewish spy cells that were spying all across America in advance of that. And then the Israeli moving companies that were found with explosive residue in their trucks, that were found taking videos of the collapse and dancing and celebrating. We all know that that wasn't some random fucking terrorist cell that planned it from some mud hut in the mountains of Afghanistan. And we all know who was actually behind 9/11 at this point. And we all know, at least if you've studied any of this history, if you've actually asked any questions for yourself, if you've done any amount of independent research, digging for yourself to ask these questions and find these answers, it's pretty freaking obvious that the entire global war on terror was actually the Clean Break Report, which was actually all on behalf of Israel, planned out by Israel. The cause was given to us by Israel with the terror attack. And then the justification for going into these places was given to us by Israel with the bad information that they gave to us about the weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. That came, the WMD accusations about Iraq, that came from Israeli intelligence, and it was all fabricated. And then it was parroted through Israeli mouthpieces, and it was all fabricated. So yeah, actually, Mr. Huckabee, as an American, as a millennial American, I'm 33 years old today, and every single fucking boot on the ground in my lifetime, basically, has been on behalf of Israel. When you really think about it, who has America had any genuine reason to go to war with in my lifetime, except on behalf of Israel? Had the global war on terror never started, would any of this war ever happened? Probably not. So that's just how I feel as an American. So I'm glad you asked, Mr. Mike Huckabee. I'm really glad that you asked, how many boots on the ground have we actually had on behalf of Israel? And I did just figure maybe we would just check back in with our boy Bibi.
The deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close. And Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years. By next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished.
Look at how gay he looks with his little stupid chart, too. They will have finished. Look at my bomb. It's a bomb, and it's almost full. This is how dumb he thinks you are. And to his credit, I mean, to be fair, America did it. We went to all of their wars for them.
The medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb.
That's a long few months.
The foremost sponsor of global terrorism could be weeks away from having enough enriched uranium for an entire arsenal of nuclear weapons. That would place a militant Islamic terror regime weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
Says the militant Jewish terror regime that has an entire arsenal of bombs, nuclear bombs, that they stole from us.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year. It could be within a few months, less than a year.
Yeah.
International terrorism. If you take away the Soviet Union and its chief proxy, the PLO, international terrorism would collapse. If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. Obviously, we'd like to see a regime change, at least I would, in Iran, just as I would like to see in Iraq. The question now is a practical question. What is the best place to proceed? It's not a question of whether Iraq's regime should be taken out, but when should it be taken out? It's not a question of whether you'd like to see a regime change in Iran, but how do it...
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon at this point?
By the way, what the fuck kind of question is that, bro? Why are you asking I think he was the prime minister of Israel at the time. Maybe this was when he was in his hiatus, actually. I forget which years he was not prime minister. Why are we asking Benjamin Netanyahu who we should launch preemptive strikes on?
The answer is categorically yes. The two nations that are competing with each other, who will be the first to achieve nuclear weapons, is Iraq and Iran. But a third nation, by the way, is Libya as well. Libya is trying.
None of them have ever had nuclear weapons, except for Israel, by the way.
Very rapidly to build an atomic bomb capability.
This is 24 years ago. 24 years ago.
So you have here now three nations. All stand together to stop Iran's march of conquest, subjugation, and terror.
Iran's march of conquest. You know, Iran that's fighting a seven-front war, expanding their territory every day. Iran. You know, Israel has killed more Americans than Iran has. Just throwing that out there. Israel has killed more Americans than Iran has. Actually. Israel's also trafficked more of America's children than Iran has. They've also stolen more of our money than Iran has. So,
I know that no matter on which side of the aisle you sit, you stand with Israel.
Weapons. And this is a tyrant who...
And in more complete form, this was the testimony that he gave encouraging the war with Iraq in 2002, right before we went.
Who is feverishly trying to acquire nuclear weapons. And today the United States must destroy the same regime because a nuclear-armed Saddam will place the security of our entire world at risk. It is simply not reflecting the reality to assume that Saddam isn't feverishly working to develop nuclear weapons. As we speak. If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
Yeah, so it was in his interim years. He was at the time, he was the former Israeli prime minister. This was when Ehud Barak was the prime minister.
Principles of real estate, the three L's, location, location, location. The three principles of winning the war on terror are the three W's, winning, winning, and winning. The more...
Wow. Oh, boy, dude. Someone hire this motherfucker to write your speeches. Could you write the slogan for my next business, BB? Winning, winning, and winning. The three W's of counterterrorism.
The more victories you amass, the easier the next victory becomes. The first victory in Afghanistan makes...
How about the three B's of Israel? Blackmail, blackmail, and blackmail. The more American politicians you blackmail, the easier it is to blackmail the next American politicians. And pretty soon, you got them all blackmailed. It's just so simple.
The second victory in Iraq that much easier. The second victory in Iraq will make the third victory that much easier. Less than dismantling his regime will do. Because Saddam's nuclear program has fundamentally changed in those 2 decades. He no longer needs one large reactor to produce the deadly material necessary for atomic bombs. He can produce it in centrifuges the size of washing machines that can be hidden.
Completely just made up. Just completely made up. Just fucking lies.
Throughout the country. And I want to remind you that...
Where are these washing machine nuclear reactors? We could probably use them for some free power. I bet if we had washing machine nuclear reactors, Benji, we could probably reduce the energy dependency on the Middle East. That'd be awesome. Can we have some of these washing machine nuclear reactors that you speak of that Iraq developed in a mud hut somewhere in the mountains of Afghanistan?
Iraq is a very big country. It is not the size of Monte Carlo. It is a big country. And I believe that even free and unfettered inspections will not uncover these portable manufacturing sites of mass death.
Because they didn't exist. Because he made them up. We already watched that. And there's Leslie. So, just wanted to take a quick detour
for Israel.
How is it for us?
Well, because it was a retribution against 9/11. Now, was it the best idea?
Was
It
Iraq
not for-
involved in 9/11?
Our government thought so.
Why are 9/11 documents still classified?
I have no idea.
Should they be unclassified?
I think so.
All of them, right?
I have no problem with that.
Me too.
I like transparency. I like sunlight.
I do. I hope you'll.
I like the FBI files about the dancing Israelis, Mike Huckabee. Maybe we should read those.
Call for that.
I like free press. I like free speech.
I totally agree.
I really.
See, you can't be a Zionist and like free speech, actually, Mike.
I like all of that.
But if there was no connect, I've never seen, I'm open to anything, but I've never seen any connection between the government of Saddam Hussein, the secular Ba'athist government of Saddam Hussein, and the terror attacks of 9/11.
I don't know that there were. I don't know.
Right. So
I'm not sure, but I don't know how.
So
why
why
was that Israel's fault?
Well, Benjamin Netanyahu, now prime minister, of course, exerted lots of pressure openly on the U.S. government to regime change the Saddam government. I was there. It was in Washington, and they complied. I don't think there's any way to read it.
Do you think Israel leads the U.S. and pushes them and tells them what to do?
Yes, Mr. Huckabee, we all do. Actually, Mr. Huckabee, the entire American public is waking up to the fact that, yes, that is exactly how it works. And sorry, Mr. Boomer, you're supremely out of touch if you don't realize that. That's where all the anti-Semitism is coming from. Is from the realization that we're actually ruled over by a bunch of blackmailed billionaires that are being blackmailed by a Jewish cabal of sex traffickers that are working on behalf of Israeli intelligence to control our nation and to pull them into wars and all that stuff. And it's worth noting that Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking operation was in its heyday during 9/11 and during the War on Terror. Right when all of these decisions were made. And I can't help but think about all the memes going around right now, all the reports going around right now about how the Epstein documents that were released seem to have a gigantic crater of no documents being released for the years surrounding the 9/11 terror attacks. And that's a little weird because there are documents in there, emails to Ghislaine Maxwell the week after the 9/11 attacks that are awfully suspicious. And then 2 years later, when they're pushing for the 9/11 commission, she gets an email saying, hey, do you want to be on the shadow 9/11 commission? They're putting together a shadow 9/11 commission, Ghislaine Maxwell. Do you want to be on it? I don't think it's in my Epstein canvas. That's Las Vegas. I think it's in this one. Leon Black's art collection. Did I save it? I made everything too big in this one, so I can't find things as easily. Let me look one more place. Steve Bannon stuff. The Whoopsies stuff. Claims of murders. No, I might not have saved it in any of my web canvases, actually. Although the Leon Black art collection stuff is really interesting. Yeah. So we got some questions about 9/11. And it's because we all know what really happened. It's because we're all waking up. So let's just see if there's any last... Let's watch this part. Similar, related.
However many went...
The tension with you. You feel like that we do too much for Israel. We're getting nothing from it. And I ask you, how many...
No, I don't think we're getting nothing
How many
from
boots on the ground has the U.S. placed on behalf of
This
Israel?
is another instance of
However many went to Iraq. We did that for Israel.
No, I don't think we did.
But you said we did it because of 9/11?
So they went over this
U.S.
twice.
justification for it.
But it wasn't for
that-
9/11. So what was the actual reason?
Well, that's the U.S. government told us it was for 9/11. They told us that they were part of it, that they had weapons of mass
But
destruction.
they knew they had
Remember all
nothing to
that?
do with 9/11, obviously.
Maybe
There's no
not.
evidence.
But I'm
so
telling
what
you
was the
that
actual
Israel was
reason?
not in that component. But
Israel had no influence on our decision to invade Iraq. That's not what the people who made the decision say. They say Israel.
Well, let me get back to the point.
Gave us that information about the fake weapons of mass destruction. Where do you think that came from? It came from Bibi.
How many?
Yeah. Yeah, Huckabee was like, actually, let me change the subject. Hey, stop talking. Stop talking. Let me change the subject. I would love to change the fucking subject, please. Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that that's probably just about enough. We've talked about Jonathan Pollard. Let's just close out one more time.
Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abraham's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that. Why don't we do that? Would you be against doing that?
Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land of Israel and just take a gander at who really has this alleged biblical right to the land of Israel? Fuck yeah, Tucker. Yes. 100%, bro. So, that is just a tiny fraction of the news that has been happening today, that has been happening this week. Just a tiny fraction. We've been going for 3 hours now, and I think it's just about time that we turned off the mainstream, that we called it a close for the night, and that we moved over to the kicking it chit chat time over on Kick. So in a moment, we're going to do that. But lastly, just real quick, one more time, I just want to really quickly again shout out Webb. And if you're just getting in here, I just want to pop into the corner here and show you Webb. I'll put on the full screen and re-announce that if you don't know, Webb is the tool that me and my team built that allows you to have just regular conversations in plain language with the entire document set of the Epstein files. And we're currently working on loading in all kinds of other cool data sets too, well beyond the Epstein files. And I will say that we are including, for example, some of my favorite inclusions are the Dancing Israeli files, the Israeli art students files, just a couple of the many. Don't worry, not all the files are anti-Semitic, just those ones. But what Webb lets you do in general with any document set is it lets you ask a normal question. In this case, we're querying the 3.5 million Epstein files. And you could ask something like, describe Leslie Wexner's relationship with Israel and show me examples of his foundations, charities, and businesses interacting with Israelis or organizations based in Israel. And when you do that, Webb will start examining the files based upon your natural language prompting. It'll show you everything that it's doing. If you want, you can check on, in this case right here, it brought back all of these documents. Once it's done with its whole query, you can actually click on these as links. They'll turn red. And you can see every single document that it pulls back. You can see all the work it's doing, all the things it's thinking through. It's now looking into Ehud Barak, looking into the network of Ehud Barak, Wexner, and Epstein. It kind of pulls all the research together, and then it starts writing out its response in natural language for you so that you can understand it in plain English with sources cited. While it's still working, the sources don't come in yet. And when it finishes, the sources link in red so that you can open the primary sources for yourself. They're all listed here on the left in the original organizational structure that they came in the original file set. You can read the documents for yourself in original form, linked to your queries. It will not go out into the internet and do its own research to come up with solutions and answers out of the blue. It won't hallucinate. It will just reference the files in your document set and give you answers with citations that you can check for yourself. This one question that I just asked gave me all of this explanation with 5 sources there, 6 sources there. Nice simple one. Want to ask another one? You could grab one of its suggested questions. You could ask more questions, expand the chat. It's the absolute shit. It's so freaking fun. So if you want access to it, go to theweb.io. That is the WEBB.io. Click dive into the files, and we no longer have a password gate on it. Now it's an open beta to anyone that wants to play. I have personally funded the tokens that are in there right now because I want you all to get to use it for free. I wanted to try it out. I didn't want the beta testers to have to pay for it. It does cost money in the back end. All this AI it costs money. It's a bunch of compute. So it will, once the open beta is done, it will flip to a subscription model, and that will have all sorts of extra data sets loaded in there. You'll be able to do all kinds of cool shit with it. I cannot wait. And then we are going to open source it and allow people to download it for themselves and play with the code, see the code, do their own things with it, except for sell it. So it's a freaking party over here. Go get into the web, play with the string mini game just for some funsies. Just connect some dots, connect some strings, give it a whip and a whirl just for fun. And see what you come up with in the documents for yourself. That way, any old person can understand these documents. Any old person can do the research. Anyone can understand exactly who Epstein worked for, exactly what he was up to, exactly what's in the files for themselves. And if the DOJ keeps deleting files out of the documents, don't worry, because we've already got them all, and they're already there, and they're not being deleted from our databases. So that is hopefully my gift to the world, our team's gift to the world. Hopefully it helps everybody understand what was really going on and helps everybody share the information. Yes, chat, that is correct. I love my life. I would never hurt myself. I'm very careful. I'm very happy. And I'm just a dude reading files that was published by our own government. I'm just a dude that's just trying to help the government be transparent. They say they love transparency. They say they love giving out files. I'm just trying to help them give out files because they seemed to give them out in a way where you couldn't download them, where there was millions of files and you had to open them one by freaking one. And they effed up all the redactions. They effed it all up. So I figured I'd help out. So I'm helping. I'm just helping out. So go help out by digging through them for yourselves and staying loud about the world's largest child sex trafficking ring that was being used to blackmail the American government on behalf of you know exactly who. Yeah. One last shout out as well. I just want to give one more shout out before we close to the Buyer app. Web is designed and built by the exact same team that built the Buyer app. Both of these are transparency apps that'll help you get information for free. Download the Buyer app for free on the App Store and the Google Play Store, and you can scan anything in the grocery store that has a barcode, and it'll tell you who actually owns the company that's producing that product so that you can know where your money's going, because most of it is going to mega corporations that are owned by the same financial cabal that controls the rest of the world. And if you use the Buyer app to find founder and family-owned companies instead, and give your money to founder and family-owned companies, you'll support American businesses or local businesses in your country, because Buyer works all over the world. And you will help stop the money flow up to the giant corporate cabal, and you'll help retain money flows in local communities, supporting real people, real businesses, real products. So go to buyerapp.com. That is BUYR app.com, or search for BUY''R on the App Store. Download it for free. Give it a 5-star review. We just hit the 100,000 user mark. We're very proud, very stoked on this project. And we got another big update coming soon as we get web dialed in and out to the public. So those are my ads for the night. Just running ads for my own shit because we don't do any ads for anybody else because F them. That's why. Because F them. Lots of great companies out there. I don't want your money. I don't need your money. We're going to take your money. Whatever the Trump quote is back before we knew. Right? So that is our show for tonight. Thank you for tuning into Free Speech Friday. Thanks for being here. Thanks for paying attention and staying loud. Thanks for caring about sovereignty, caring about children, caring about the truth. Thanks for supporting me. Thanks for liking and subscribing and sharing this content with other people. And just remember always, at the end of the night, that there's all this horrible stuff going on in the world. And it is largely all these intelligence agency games, all these organized crime operations, all these psyops. A lot of it is out of our control. But we are, if you're American, you're an American, and you're part of the nation. You are a nation of Americans, and it is up to you to be the best American you can be. And the same is true of everyone all around the world, is that if we're going to change the world, we don't just need to hold the pieces of shit to account. We also need to be the best people that we can possibly be. So be sure to drink some water, eat some healthy food, do something good for yourself, like get outside, get some activity, get some exercise, get stronger, get healthier, get happier. Tell people you love them. Build strong bonds and community. Be a good person. Do nice things for other people. Okay? And together, we'll all make the world a better place. So, thanks for tuning in. On the other side of the outro, we'll be hanging out on Kick. If you want to come over to Kick, that is Cancel Ian Carroll on Kick, KICK.com, not KIK.com. And we'll be continuing the show over there. And if you've been having a great time for 3 hours, and that is more than enough for you, thanks for tuning in. Have a great night, and I will probably see you this weekend.
Conspiracy theories are entering a dangerous...
Information is the oxygen of the democracy.
There's so much evidence out there that even if less than 1% is true, that would be enough to collapse the current paradigm and change the whole planet.